What's your favorite scary movie?
This is Halloween Town.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Beetlejuice.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare.
Tom check.
How am I supposed to know Comchat? You got to say over. Over.
Welcome back to the Cheap Seat Critics podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Today, we're covering Blair Witch, the 2016 sequel to the Blair Witch Project from 1999. But, hello, I'm one of your hosts, the Geeky Writer.
I'm Chris Maroon.
And I'm Sprinks. And hey, if you're out in Burkesville, Maryland, listening to the podcast, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, those social medias, as well as LetterBoxd if you're interested in that. We have like averaged out graphs. And for visual side of things, we're over on YouTube and Rumble.
And also, don't go into the Black Forest woods if you're in Burkesville, Maryland. I hear it's very bad.
Yeah, you can go during the day. Just don't sleep there.
Some nice arts and crafts happen out there.
Yeah, sure. Arts and crafts, we'll call them that. I guess first and foremost, we should dive into histories. The histories for this one was kind of funny and simple. I'd like to take everybody back to the week or maybe the second week after we finished recording the podcast for the original Blair Witch. I had a really dumb idea for movie night.
Oh,
Back
you don't
in
say.
2022.
Yeah. We were riding the high of the original Blair Witch because we quite enjoyed it. We had a nice back and forth at the end of that podcast, and I decided, whether smartly or dumbly, we shall decide as we continue on with this podcast recording, to make us all watch Blair Witch for movie night. Not to be confused with the Blair Witch Project.
Not to be confused with that, no. Yeah. And I guess we'll see how much this one stuck with us, or me in particular. I was surprised how much I remembered, actually, watching it.
That's fair. Springs, you mentioned you had some history you'd like to add on.
A little. Yeah, I got my hands at an old bookstore, which already sounds like the premise to a horror movie. I got myself a copy of the Blair Witch Project, a dossier, which is a whole recorded, like, police, FBI, private investigation book, compiled of the missing persons case in 1995 of the 3 film students. I haven't read the whole thing, but I've read a little bit, and it's very fascinating at how serious a matter this took.
The uproar that it caused.
Yeah. Before the compiling of the movie being made.
Interesting. Yeah, I know there was a lot of controversy with the first one they made because they used their real names, right? That was another big part of it, and that caused confusion as well.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. Crimson, did you have anything you wanted to add on to the histories?
Since our first time watching the Blair Witch Project on the podcast, I have seen the Scooby-Doo parody, and that is about it in the realm of Blair Witch for me.
I too have also seen a Scooby-Doo project.
To probably no one's surprise here, I have not.
It's
big how limited I have been on
It's surprising
Scooby-Doo.
that something like that aired on Cartoon Network.
It was a real project, not a fan thing. Crazy.
Interesting.
I also have dabbled a little with the video game Blair Witch, but have not beaten it.
I forgot there was a video game about it. I know the Saw has a video game too, which is strange to think about. Yeah. I guess if that concludes your history, I'll roll us over into a few facts about the film. Um, I So the Burkesville officials took down most of the Welcome to Burkesville signs before the film premiered, as many were stolen following the release of the first and second movies.
Oh, smart.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. In order to make the sequel as much of a surprise as possible, filming was done in complete secrecy in Vancouver as opposed to Patas, who Patapisco State Park, where the original was shot. The film was originally promoted under the faux title of The Woods, and the first trailer was then shown at 2016 San Diego Comic Con, revealing it as the third Blair Witch film, where a mere 2 months prior to the premiere. Um, and this one is more or less the direct sequel, so at least it's treated that way.
Yeah, that
Like
was
a
a
side quel.
question I wanted to bring up of a reason, like a clarification question of why we're not covering or haven't covered Blair Witch 2 yet. And we went to
Yeah.
this one.
The main reasoning for me, I suppose, was that this more or less was a direct sequel, and that's or a, as Crimson put it. What did you say?
A side quel.
Sidequel? Yeah, that's a good way to put it, I suppose. Um, at around the hour-minute mark, Ashley pulls something from her wounded leg, and there's obviously been some debate about it, but it's confirmed to be a tree root, and the effect was done practically without any CGI. And besides some digital removals, the film was almost completely free of computer effects, and that's a particular fact that made me tilt my head. So take it with these internet facts with a grain of salt.
And I could believe that.
Yeah, I think the only ones that would need. I only think the digital removals and digital add-ons. I think were the only thing that we're in because we do get a couple shots of the monster that doesn't necessarily look like it was a costume when it was there.
Oh, it was very quick.
And this film does not reference any of the events depicted in Book of Shadows Blair Witch 2. So
Yeah,
there
the
you
second
go.
one. So,
Um,
because this doesn't classify as a third, does it? Or maybe to some it's the third installment of a franchise, but it's not like Blair Witch 3.
yeah.
Canonically, it is not the third, but in release order, it's the third.
Okay.
The budget for this movie was about $5 million. The box office about $45.2 million, so it definitely made a little bit of its money back in them some. And I think that's all I got for facts. Does anyone have anything else that they want to throw in before we dive into the film proper?
I have one, which was a compelling point when we covered Blair Witch Project. Unlike that one, this movie was entirely scripted.
Yeah, I would agree. It definitely has that feeling to it. Yeah.
You're telling me that the actors that weren't told anything didn't just climb into a tree to save a drone on their own actions?
No, I don't think so.
Crazy.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense though. They're trying to make it a sequel of something
They're trying to emulate with more,
modern with modern technology.
yeah, but a more, I guess,
Modern techniques.
controlled point of horror, like trying to get the
Mhm.
beats and not kind of spontaneity of the first film.
Well, the first one went for like suspense. This one went for jump scares. More
A lot of
accurately
jump scares.
audio jump scares and not actual jump scares.
Oh yes, but the first one wasn't filmed to be it's hard. The first one wasn't filmed in the way of film to be. It was very guerrilla style,
Yeah.
and like compiled. I don't know if anything
What
was placed
you're
out of order of footage.
Yeah, what you're trying to hint at there, or what you're trying to get at, Sprinks, is that it wasn't like scripted from beginning to end. Like a lot of the dialogue was more diegetic, like on the spot.
Yeah, I mean the
Right.
first film was like in film canisters. The three students were given direction of what they should achieve that day, but how they went about it was onto their own choosing. It wasn't actually directed or scripted. Like this movie where it's like, I guess, scene by scene, it was told to them, to the actors, what to do.
Mhm.
Well, I guess with that, we shall dive into the film. We're doing a 3-act structure. We're going to do popcorns for act. And for those of you just looking at the movie or just listening to us, it's pretty. The acts are pretty much broken up every half hour. But the first act is shockingly from the beginning to the group waking up to the end of the scene where the group has woken up at camp with symbols hanging over their tents. And I
Yeah.
guess we will start with Crimson.
All right. Uh, I will jump on to a little bit of the backstory that Lane provides on the walk. More specifically, Rustin Parr has come back for this movie. It's not just a plot line through the first, but it's also present here. I almost forgot about that plot line in the other one. Even after we had that whole talk of um, about him at the cabin at the end, house.
Yeah.
But we get a lot more in-depth look at the house in this one than the first one, if this is even the same house as the
For
first one.
for all we fucking know, the house is omnipresent, so it just changes itself as it
Yeah.
wishes and wills.
Yeah, this one has a
Yeah.
lot more rooms, at least shown and depicted, than in the first film or in Project.
Yeah. Yeah, the basement area did seem to be similar when she found Lane. That's jumping ahead a little bit. So it was just something of note. I didn't think it would really be acknowledged in this one. I thought it would be more focused on the witch and not the killer in the woods. Kind of red herring that was kind of set up in the original, but it did not have much focus in this one. Actually,
That's fair. Sprinks, why don't you go next?
Um, I couldn't find Darknet's original upload on YouTube of the footage. I tried looking it up, and the only thing I came close to was a re-upload that didn't line up with the date.
did you see anything weird about the date?
What was it? April 20th, 2014?
Uh, it was April 30th.
Oh, 30th.
That was just a discrepancy because the opening title said the footage was recovered May 15th, but the upload was April 30th.
That poses a big question of this movie. Which
We'll
is
go on.
just, is time travel a
Yeah.
thing in it?
Yeah, you're gonna hit that.
Yeah. It's funny because the first film kind of hints at it, or like they hints with time being fucked with, but this film directly confirms that time is being fucked with, at least within the scope of the witch's realm.
Yes, in the woods.
We're gone for 5-6 days.
I guess I question, I guess, for the three of us. Do you think the footage shown at the beginning that James is watching is the exact same footage that Lisa recorded at the end of the movie? Or do you think it's quote unquote Heather?
And going for the big point right at the
Or
gate.
possibly the witch disguised as Heather?
Well, they made it quite obvious at the ending clip to flash and kind of focus for a little bit on the reflection of Lisa running up the stairs to show, hey, this is the same thing as the beginning, if you remember. So I think they were leaning towards it's Lisa footage and not a separate footage.
Okay. I'm leaning the same way, that it's Lisa's footage. And it was like sent back in time or something.
Yeah, I don't. Shockingly enough, I don't know how the time travel rules work. I just know that they exist. Um, so I guess I would be leaning the same way because of that.
Did she grab Lane's camera at any point, or was she using hers
She
at the house
she grabs his after
after she stabs him?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't go back to verify that, so I wasn't sure. Okay, yeah, I think that would pretty much confirm that. Because they even made reference to him having the same camera as a coincidence when they're accusing him of faking stuff. So,
Now, the event of this then reminds me of a guilty pleasure of mine of a movie called Project Almanac that also involves time travel. Would this result in Lane having two of the identical tapes, one just being recorded over, but at the time of finding the one tape of Lisa that he uploaded, he would have another tape, I guess, empty with him, which is why he believes that it's not his. But then it's questioned, I think, in Act 2 that it's convenient the tape he found fits with his camera.
Yeah, I have a whole essay written about that particular scene. So, convenient, yes, is what I'll say. That he found it. I mean, what was guess what is the point you're treating at, Springs again? That
That he would have questioned the reason of two tapes because it would have gone back in time of his own.
well, he
But I
didn't
guess
know.
he didn't know it was
Yeah,
his. Like nothing was
yeah,
identified that it was his to begin with.
I would presume that he doesn't know it's his. Uh, they
he
would
was
be
dead by the time the footage he would have uploaded happens. He wouldn't. If he saw it happening the second time, he'd be like, "Oh my gosh, that's the same footage."
But
But
wouldn't the footage of that be his
know it.
recording? So it would have been like him and Talia in the woods on that footage he would have found?
No, it gets really complex because we get Lane talking about how the Blair Witch um, needs sacrifices, and you got to listen to her. So it had me questioning: did he go to the cabin before, and the witch told him to put out a video to get more people into the woods? I have no idea.
No, what I'm getting at is the tape that he finds and uploads of Lisa, which is in the future. Would that have all his recording of what's occurred? I mean, I guess it's the same tape. I don't know if he
Well,
had more than one
they
tape.
mentioned how it was um,
corrupted or
damaged. Yeah,
damaged. Yeah.
Okay, so he only
that
had a
that was
bit.
that was all that was recoverable. So they worked around by saying that. Yeah.
Okay. I guess that poses another question. Is all the footage in this movie corrupted or damaged?
I would say yes, especially when it starts blinking out, like in the audio starts glitching. When everything starts glitching out at the most obvious times, there would be something there to show.
Okay. I'm also in
So
agreement.
the implication is all damaged and stuff like that.
Yeah, because of the transitional usages of glitches. Normal footage wouldn't do that. It would just cut.
Well, the meta concept of this is the same as the original Blair Witch, which is like the idea is that someone found all this footage and pieced it together documentary style for everyone to see. That's the meta. So like in this world, this is a story that really happened. This is just they just pieced together all the footage they found of it to tell a story with it.
Yeah, I'm just going that it's damaged because of the glitch effect. Otherwise, we'd have more just cut scenes to the next scene. Because during like the third act, the glitches really ramp up,
Oh yeah.
which I know is just like the scare tactic of the tone of the film. But
Yeah. Uh I mean, I'll touch on it now. I tend to find that overuse kind of cheap as uh editing choice, scare tactic, I guess.
okay,
I agree. I think it was a bit overboard.
Mind
I
you,
wouldn't call it an objective issue, but
yeah, I like I said, yeah, it's not an objective issue. It's just I like the usage of it in small spurts, but I think they way over relied on it in a way that I think the original Blair Witch benefits that this doesn't. Is the original Blair Witch has a much smaller budget, obviously, so they couldn't afford to like do all those kinds of effects with their film. But here they obviously could, and they just kind of did overboard.
Yeah, effects for the first movie have been real weird.
Yeah. The first film is very, very reserved, and I think that plays to its strengths.
Well, it kind of had to be.
Yeah.
It would be weird for a production company to get, or an editing room to get footage of a movie like 4 years after recording to work with.
Yeah.
I'm lost. What's the point you just made, Smith?
Blair Witch Project was filmed in '94, and then the tapes were released, or I guess released and found by I have it in my dossier, but found by the police station, the police, and then the FBI, all involved to put the tapes in order in '95, and then that was all compiled into a movie in '99. But I guess the thing that's foggy on me, I don't know if that was initially planned from the very beginning. I'm gonna guess it was because that's what the students signed up for. But the whole filmed in '94 and all the way to the editing floor, like in possibly '98, but in '99 before the film actually coming out. Kind of like it was a whole social experiment in '96 and '97.
Definitely has a little bit of that. Thoughts, Crimson? Or just thinking?
Um, no, I wasn't even thinking. I don't really have anything on it, I guess.
Alright. I think I'll touch on a point. I actually quite like how they introduce um, Lisa and James to the story, with them reviewing like footage, so you have your hook. Because this is what the scary footage in the opening scene comes across to me as a bit of a hook as far as a film is concerned, and also I like that it bleeds right into like character stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would definitely call that a hook.
Yeah.
it's never stated or confirmed. What do you two think the age difference between Heather and James is as siblings?
My guess would be a decade,
Okay,
which
He was
is
4 by the events of the first film, and
so he's like 28 now.
um, if we're
'Cause
going with
it's been 20
release
years.
to, yeah, so yeah, um, yeah,
a lot
probably
of
10, 13-year gap, something maybe.
yeah.
Like,
My
how
guess
old
would be
was
10.
Heather in the first movie? It was a senior
Uh,
project she was doing, right?
yeah, so
Yeah.
like 18.
Okay, so like
My,
14-year difference.
yeah, my guess is somewhere between 10 or 20 years would be my guess for age difference.
Yeah,
It's not really
bit of a
confirmed,
gap.
but I think the the wider the age gap, I think the more issues that might cause for the film. And I do think it depends on how like much Heather had time to be around James, because there's a lot of uh, things that happen in this film that are reliant on James's more or less obsession.
Oh, Crimson, you said
Yeah,
she went missing when he was 4.
yeah, that's what he brought up.
All right, so
Oh, she went missing when he was 4?
James was born in 1990 then, because Heather and Mike and Josh went missing in '94, and this is taking place 2014. So 20 years has passed. And if it was 4, then I guess that could make him 28, or well,
Mm.
24. Wait, 24. I don't know where I added an extra 4 years.
Interesting, because I think that I'm gonna have a lot more issues with James as a character. I might have
Oh,
missed that.
I do have issues because he was 4.
Yeah, see that and the issues that you have, Crimson, now just piled up for me. Um,
Yeah.
so I guess we'll tackle that as we go along, won't we?
Oh yeah, man, that third act's gonna be heavily reliant on that
Yeah.
4-year-old.
Speaking of giving out little things, guess it's your turn, Crimson.
Oh, sweet. Uh, we have a POV shot while they're at a bar or club or whatever they're doing, of Peter drinking alcohol of some sort. And it was cool. I like how they offset the bottle to the side because the camera's supposed to be on the side of the head with the
Mhm.
earpiece. Nitpicky, it wasn't far enough to the side, but I liked the premise of it, and they played with that with a couple shots in this of offsetting what's being looked at because the camera's supposed to be on the side of someone's head, not in the center of their head.
Yeah, it's a nice tweak to what would normally be a POV shot. That I also quite enjoyed.
Yeah, so I like how they acknowledge it by offsetting it instead of just ignoring that the camera's on the side of someone's head.
I agree. Something weird about
Uh,
that shot that I picked up was that there was like 5 or 6 beer bottles presents around Peter. And I'm like, wow, is this
he's a
really trying
drinker.
to identify a characteristic of this character?
I mean, it helps because in the next scene he's the only one with a hangover. You know,
Yeah.
Worth it.
so
I
at least there's some continuity with it.
I thought it was weird that they're testing equipment at a club.
I mean, it's a little weird, but there's
Not
no
out of the
reason they wouldn't do that.
yeah. I would agree it's odd, but it's not implausible.
Yeah,
Maybe they wanted to record them having fun because they just wanted to do that.
like
Possibly,
you
but
know what? I feel like we're gonna die, so let's
well,
film this.
I would have. I think there was plenty to play with that when they're in the hotel room.
Yeah, they definitely. I mean, they do definitely do some more there, a little bit more anyway.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's a little montage,
and I think that
probably.
was a fact I saw because there was something I looked up. I did look up something in this movie because I wanted an answer on it, but I can't discuss it till the third act. But looking for it, I did see like there was over 2 hours of footage recorded in that hotel room of them goofing off, and there's only less than a minute used in the movie.
That's
Less than a
kind of
minute's generous. It was like less than 30 seconds.
Yeah, I
that's
think
a
Short.
shame.
the director said like sometimes it takes that long to just find the golden little pieces of chemistry between the characters. So
Hmm. That's a
Start
shame.
up
I would
excess
have.
footage than not enough.
Yeah. Again, once again, we tied to. I'm gonna bring this back to my favorite, Lord of the Rings. There's supposed to be like 1,500 hours worth of footage for Helm's Deep, or something crazy.
well, yeah,
Wow.
because Jackson really likes just saying, "Let's do that again. Do it one more
Yeah.
time."
Yeah, yeah. Peter Jackson's filming style is just get as many takes as possible with like different inflections on your dialogue and stuff like that. He's very, very different filmmaker. Eh,
I think that approach. I know this is a little off topic, but I'd like to see Peter Jackson direct an animated movie because I feel like that's what happens in recording booths a lot. Do it again with
Um,
this instance or this approach.
I'd agree with that. I'd want to see him direct an animated movie as well. That would be fun. He has no hand in the
War
War of
for
the
Rohirrim.
Rohirrim, right?
He's
Yeah,
connected, but he's not directing. I don't think.
yeah. I know his studio's connected. I don't think he's directing. It was an anime director. Kanji.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna fuck up his name. So I won't talk about that right now.
yeah. I know Crimson has no connection to Lord of the Rings, so
Yeah. Um, so yeah, all this going back to I guess the the hotel stuff. It's so short that I actually didn't really get much of a point from it, other than it's just them having fun together. So even with the director saying that it's for like the gold standard, the gold for their chemistry. I didn't exactly feel that was gold for the chemistry what I saw.
I
And
just
Inclined
saw it
to
as them
agree.
goofing off, and it's
yeah,
good.
which is fine.
Yeah, the thing that aided for me in that clip was that James was also goofing off, which I think that was the only thing for me because it seems that everyone else doesn't really take it as seriously as James, but that to me was James actually like being around
Showing
friends.
he's yeah. So
He's
like
not
it
being a
has its
stickler.
purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has its purpose for sure. But when with the way the director phrased it, I guess in your point, and it's like it's showing the golden parts of their chemistry. I definitely didn't feel that. I just felt like them goofing off, which is fine. It adds
Oh,
something for James, but it doesn't really necessarily do much for everyone else. If
okay.
that
I
makes
don't
sense.
mean golden points of chemistry of in the movie of like the montage bit. It was just in that 2 hours of footage. He's like, I think he said like he he did 2 hours just to use the bits that he found was the golden in that 2 hours of footage.
Yeah,
Okay.
my point in response to that is like if that was the best for character chemistry in the footage that he could find, I that kind of worries me, but doesn't surprise me given the film we got.
Okay.
Um, all right. Crimson, go.
All right. So we find out that the earpieces that are cameras also have GPS connected with them. And they make sure to explicitly say when they are turned off, there's no GPS locator in it, or like it powers it off or whatever. That doesn't become anything, right?
They never
That,
used the GPS tracker.
yeah. I
Yeah.
have no idea why that was stated. I was like, oh, they're setting up something. And they didn't. It actually meant nothing. They didn't try to track like
Peter
Peter.
or,
Yeah, they didn't try to track Peter or
or Ashley.
try to track Ashley. The name's really hard for me to get to. Uh, but yeah, they didn't do that. That was the time to use it, and they didn't use it. So I don't. I should have been removed. I think.
I agree that them not tracking Peter is an issue with GPS. Ashley, it's at the point where it's already frantic and everyone just losing their sanity that it's probably not the first thought to cross their mind. But the Peter thing, I don't know why. It was just comm checks and yelling.
Yeah, I'd agree. Um, the
I mean, even if
it
they did a
also
scene of pulling out their phones to check, like, oh, check his GPS, and it's like, oh, it's not on. At least that would indicate.
yeah. The my issue with it overall is it's that it gives the characters a certain sense of plot armor without ever addressing the fact that they have this particular plot armor almost. So they gave the characters a tool and it's never comes up again.
I mean,
The best faith interpretation I have is that the in the meta sense, that's how they found the footage is using the GPS tracker, the people trying to find them when they went missing. That is
there's
the best faith interpretation I can give the film
there's one
for introducing
line.
that concept.
I think there's one line that helped kind of to me was tacky, but when they're trying to leave, this is probably Act Two, but when they're leaving and they go in a circle, James I think says like, "Oh, the GPS isn't working,"
Yeah,
which to me is like their reasoning of like, "Oh, we just won't use it now,"
yeah,
which is
it
before the Peter
work.
thing. But
Yeah, it works, but it doesn't necessarily explain like why they can't track each other. You know, so like there's a GPS that works as like a map to guide yourself out and like a in trying to find your directions or whatever. But there's also the GPS of like, hey, your location is right here according to the map. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So there's, I guess I would want a bigger explanation. If the idea is the GPS tracker is just to help them get from one place to another, then that's what fucked up. But that doesn't necessarily explain away why they weren't able to track each other within relation,
yeah,
despite
or
the boundaries being fucked with.
make it smarter in a sense of like, "Oh, let's check Peter for the GPS," and they go, "Oh, it wasn't working. It doesn't work," and he's like, "Oh, well, at least try." Something like that because it is different. But
Yeah, it's it's something that they introduced and dropped, which is kind of a shame because it's one of the reasons I actually was really into the first half hour of this film thereabouts because they were actually taking tons of precautions,
Yeah.
before they going into the woods, as it were.
One thing I mean, I guess that's the whole GPS bit. One thing that also is never a problem is battery life.
Not in this film, yeah.
Nothing ever dies. There's like glitchy stuff,
Well,
which I think is witch
They're playing
presence,
Outlast on easy mode. What can you
but
say?
the night vision camera died the night that the real symbols showed up. That was
oh,
dead.
There was
you're
a
right. That is the one.
The
Yeah.
flashlights were dying, but they didn't
Uh,
die.
that,
Um,
I don't know. So to me,
uh,
the flashlights glitching and turning off, I thought that was the presence of the witch.
it could be. We brought that up in the first movie because that happened with their flashlights too. So I'm inclined to agree that it's more supernatural leaning than coincidence that the flashlights are just happen to be dimming or dying in the presence of the witch.
yeah. I think um, I'm thinking now. The only thing that usually struggles is the cameras. I assumed the the earpiece cameras would eventually start glitching out and dying, but we never really get to a point where those die as well. So it's an easy fix, mind you. They could just have charge packs with them, but
I could.
Yeah, because Lisa talks about charging the batteries of her primary camera. So off screen, because I'm not recording the whole time, they could be swapping out batteries for their earpieces as well.
Yeah. And
To be on
Lane
top of it.
implies that he has batteries because his camera's like older, so he always has to carry
yeah,
batteries with him.
So I don't have too much of an issue. The only issue I had with battery was the darn drone, but that's not this act.
No, but there is something about the drone in this act, which I think is a goof of
Okay.
when they're testing out the drone out in the parking lot and it's kind of showing the town. Lisa's talking is still heard as the drone's going up, which means the audio is overlaid.
yeah. Which is actually fine because assuming they're using their earpiece cameras too right now.
Yes, but that would have to be from the point of view of the earpiece camera.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the point of view of the movie for the audience. Pretty much most of it.
I know,
I
but
mean,
being that the drone goes up and the audio doesn't, disappear because we're looking from the drone's point of view, and the audio is overlaid with it, which means it's edited that way and it's not found footage style.
Well, if we
yeah,
we brought up if this in the universe was footage found and someone compiled to make a documentary or whatever, that they could have spliced it, the audio from the camera with the drone shot.
Yeah,
That there could be an in-universe explanation as well.
but I found it as a mess up because I think that's one of the only instances where something like that happens in this movie.
Well, we don't get a lot of shots, not POV of the people, so yeah, that doesn't really have opportunities to have that happen.
the only other times that it could happen is when they're testing the drone out in the forest because everything
Yes,
else is relatively POV to people.
that's in Act 2, I think, or something. But they do that when Peter checks on Ashley and comes out of the tent to talk to James, and they're trying out the drone before it gets lost. And as it's going up, their audio is getting muffled and drowns out. So that is
Mhm.
going by the audio off of the drone.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. I guess your problem, Springs. It's not a problem for me because they made the film meta in that sense. There's an in-universe explanation and out-universe explanation for it. So, like, as far as we know, the meta people who edited all this found footage together could have chosen to muffle the conversation because the conversation was going to be obvious to the audience as to what Peter was talking about and why he was concerned. And we cut back to them anyway to have that conversation where he's explaining the situation to Peter or James. What's wrong with Ashley's foot?
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's I
Okay. So we're kind of on the flip side of that then, you and I.
yeah I like I said I don't have a big issue with it. I can definitely see why you do, um, because there's enough explanations and wiggle room in it for me that I don't take an issue with it.
What's the flip side, Sprinks?
Well, as I'm hearing it from writer to writer, the narrative of the story still goes fine. By the first instance, Lisa's discussion is important enough that it needs to be said of what she's saying. And then versus the next part where Peter talks to James about what's happening with Ashley is already implied, and then it cuts to it afterwards that it doesn't need to be present with that drone shot. So the story still works in both instances. But for me, the flip of it is the second one works because the point of view of the drone, the audio would disappear as it's going up, versus the first instance where they're in the parking lot and it's picking up Lisa, which means it's spliced after and editing.
Yeah, and like I said, in universe, the splice editing I don't have to take an issue with because they could have just edited that over or their cut of this found footage or whatever. Um,
Yeah. And I see it as it is a bit of an issue because there, I guess, in universe, there's a reason why it did that. I see out of universe, like for us, yes, it's that so we understand what Lisa's saying, but in it's only in this instance that I picked up. I think it's the only part I picked up like an audio overlay, um, which is just odd that it didn't happen anywhere else.
So this boils down to it's a one-time thing for you. That's what the core of this problem is.
It is, but in the
Not that it's
instance,
used, but it's because it's used once. That's your problem.
yeah, it more leans to that way.
Right.
um, I will jump to Lisa having potentially ulterior motives at the start of the film. It's one of the again, this is really why I enjoy the first half hour of the movie. So this is when they're all at the bar and Peter and Ashley are talking to Lisa because they've been friends with Peter for much longer. So they have the gist of what's going on. Um, like they don't want Lisa to use part of what they find as like whatever movie she's making and putting together. Um, and so I kind of like that Peter and Ashley are batting for James in a way. They don't want Lisa to take advantage of his obsession, love for his sister, that sort of thing. It's very, very good, small character dynamic stuff that I quite enjoyed from that scene. It's very quick, but it's quickly establishing the relationships and the histories between characters.
It does do that, yeah. Um, I just wish I don't know. It's very weird because they do set up stuff like that, but
They don't do anything with it.
through
Yeah.
the movie, the characters don't feel. The only characters that feel like they have real interactions or chemistry is Lisa and James. I feel like Ashley and Peter, their interactions with anybody else is just so surface level and like
Yeah,
there's total
everybody,
strangers.
everyone's paired off. Darknet's with
Talia.
yeah, Talia, and then we have Ashley with Peter, and then Lisa's kind of with James. They're all paired off to a degree, which is kind of a shame. It'd be interesting to see more character interplay, um, and I do think the film suffers a bit from that as far as character dynamics go. And God, we're gonna get to that in coming Act Two. But I think they were for me, they were trending the right way. They just needed to work at the character interactions a bit more. Like there's a small bit where Lisa and Peter have a back and forth about Darknet 666 being crazy or whatever, and like they want to go mess with him a little bit. But that small interaction is very very minor. It doesn't really add much for the characters because we already know that Peter's kind of put off by Talia and Darknet. Lane. Sorry, dark. He's dark net in my notes, everybody. Um, and where was I?
Pointing out the dynamics between the characters at
Yeah,
certain stages.
yeah. So it's very, very surface level. It doesn't really, unfortunately, get deep enough to where like you could really want to fuck with it as a horror writer or a horror or in a horror film sense.
Okay.
Doesn't sound
Any
like you
disagreement?
agree,
Yeah.
No, I get it.
but
No, there's no buts. Not for that.
All right.
okay.
Springs, why don't you go next?
Okay. There's two, to my knowledge, two humorous pan shots in this film, which are very scripted, I guess. Very scripted. I don't know how these would play. I don't think the characters in the movie are how do I word this? I don't think the characters in the movie are knowledgeable enough that what they're doing is like film joke to do what they're doing. That it, how do, it's hard to confuse. It's a very movie, not a movie moment, but it's made by the scripted filmmakers outside of this movie to do the scene. I guess the two scenes I'm talking about. One is when they're in Lane's house and it pans between Peter and Ashley looking at the Confederate flag and back to them. And then the second one is when Peter's trying to set up his tent and he's just kicking it, and it pans to James, and I think Lisa with their tents already set up, and then back to his that's crumpled on the ground.
Yeah, everyone's kind of amused at Peter's inability to.
You don't think the characters in universe would do those actions?
No.
I I felt like that's quite natural.
I guess I'm gonna ask why Springs because I'm kind of I found them humorous, but I also found them completely in character for them to film because they're trying to film themselves as a documentary. You see them set up cameras at specific angles to kind of catch group shots and things like that.
Yes, but to play jokes, and I think it. I'm trying to think I don't know any of the characters that would do that for a joke play. Because Lisa's very. This is a documentary she's doing for James. James is serious about finding Heather, and I don't think he'd waste time. Peter would goof off, but he's not holding the camera.
I would posit that it is in character for Lisa because in a prior scene, when Peter and Lisa are intending to go mess with Lane, and then it devolves into kind of a backstory, she was filming that with the intention that that Peter was going to go mess with them.
What was the messing with Lane?
Uh, they were making fun of his videos, so Peter was going to go ask him a question about them because he was going to go snidely poke fun at him, and she was going to record it. She tries to stop him, but then she just continues rolling with it. Like you actually see her walk up in frame with the camera.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, this is another instance where Sprink saw it differently than you. I saw that
Okay.
as an embarrassment out of Lisa, like, don't edge him on, not as a joke, but Peter was like just Peter in his, um, I don't know, his passive just tone towards Lane of strangers, like he's uncomfortable with the situation, is doing it, but that's also Lane getting more information out about what he knows. So I
Yeah,
didn't
there's
see
a
that.
point in it.
Yeah, but I didn't see it as Lisa poking fun at Lane. I saw it as her trying to
No, no,
protect
no, no.
Peter.
Well, yeah. Well, the intention is that Peter is going to go poke fun at them, and she wants to stop him, but she ends up not stopping him. She's recording with him, which means she's just rolling with it.
Yeah, okay.
You want to add anything into this, Crimson?
Um, the them joking, probing, bullying, however you want to describe it, with Lane. I I don't really honestly remember Lisa's involvement in it. I just remember Peter's involvement. So as annoying as it is to say, I don't have much of a point on that one.
All right.
But
No
going
worries.
back to the core of whether or not Lisa would film the Confederate flag and then look at her friend, or see her friend struggling with a tent to look away and look back at him still struggling. I find that totally fine with a group of friends. Oh, look, Confederate flag. Oh, look, my African American friend. What does he think? Or should we be here? Or the tent. Ah, that's funny. My friend's being stupid. Looks around to see other friends if they're looking. Looks back. Oh my gosh, it's still funny. I'm going to record this. I don't see the issue.
Okay. I guess just a matched um, intake of perspective that didn't line up with me.
All right, we get a little bit of history in this with who the Blair Witch is. Ellie Kedward or something like that. Maybe I said that wrong, but
Yeah, Ellie Kedward.
yeah, a little bit of backstory with her coming from what's her face, Lane's pal,
Talia.
Talia, coming from her, and that's another thing. It's like they're dropping little nuggets, but they don't elaborate on them or explore them. It's like that is our Blair Witch backstory right there. Is this little bit? She was accused of being a witch, hung on a tree, and then some reports say she was hung with rocks while on the tree or whatever. That's it.
Interesting. That
Right.
is actually set up, I think. It's why the witch has, or our brief glimpses of the witch creature that we see has those elongated arms. Because she was hung on a tree with rocks on her limbs. So like the idea that she was stretched out, kind of. At least that's what I interpreted that as the payoff of.
Okay.
Well, not that it didn't lead anywhere, that it wasn't more added to. Like, we don't know the motive of the witch from this story. We just know she
Oh,
died
I
in the
see what you mean.
woods. Like, they started something, but they didn't go forward with it.
Oh, I see what you mean. So we have a visual payoff, but not necessarily a storytelling payoff.
Yeah, we don't know anything about the witch other than she's old. She's supernatural, probably. I don't know. The story said not much of anything, really.
I see.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think. I guess I would be trending towards agreement. I think I do like the quote unquote payoff we get of it, though, with the witch's appearance in relation to the story the stories we were told about her.
Do like that, yeah.
Okay, and I like
Think
it.
I heard.
Yeah, I like it as is because it feels very um, slightly tall tale, campfire stories, bedtime horror stories, kind of like all mixed in one of just lore that they know of. And I like that it's being explained via Lane and Talia, since this is like where they
They're
grew up and
locals.
were raised and locals to the area being discussed, and also from James, who's very fixated on everything around the disappearance of his sister.
I mean, I'm fine with it being folklore and stuff, but usually those tales have motives behind whatever the story is behind. Like, and this creature or person still haunts these woods today to get revenge on anyone who touches the land they died on. There's always something that's like, and this is why they do it, or they hunt babies because of this. There's usually a reason tied to, other than it's the monster's origin is she was a lady that got killed in the woods. There's usually a tie to why there's still a problem in the story.
Okay.
The best we
I
kind of get is an implication that was revenge for that was done to her.
I like that there is no tie because it adds more mystery.
Yeah, it's a delicate line to walk. At least in my view, you want to keep elements of mystery to your mythology that you're playing with in the story, and among other things. So
I also think Lane's at
I
a point where he's being very serious of what he believes, and if he just doesn't know something, he just will end it. I don't see him being the type to. I mean, that feels more Peter's thing. to be like, oh, and she continues to haunt the grounds and kill, and like the scary end bit around the fire.
This is Lane we're talking about. He's the one who said, "The no one living." That is, he didn't. That was his line.
I know, and I think that was very serious of him. I don't think that was a joke.
Oh yeah, he doesn't mean that as a joke, but I guess I don't understand your point then, Spring.
That if Lane doesn't have information towards something, he wouldn't play it as like a joke of his own speculations on what could be. He would just end a fact of what he knows. So
Yeah,
if he
he'd
doesn't know the
embellish.
reason, I don't think he's going to give out a theory of a reason that he has.
You don't think he would embellish? That's what you said, Crimson?
I was trying to help Sprint with words. I think Sprinks is saying that Lane wouldn't try to theory craft on his own. He would just relay what he knows definitively. I
Yes.
think that's what you were going with.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, okay. The closest we get to him theory crafting is just him talking about his prior research, like with the whole one story that I heard, and then goes into the witch being hung with rocks.
Yeah, the theory he read online. But then again, that's not his theory.
Yeah, but it would still fall under the point of what you're saying is that he's just giving out the information that he knows because he read it at some point.
Yeah.
At that point, they were throwing around ideas as to what the witch was or could be.
And I like for Lane in that scene, he is hesitant to share that.
Yeah, he's been getting bullied this whole time. No, the witch thing is weird because there's a rule tied to the witch, so it kind of makes it sound like she's also cursed. Like she can only kill you if you look at her. That why can't she just kill you whenever? And does she kill you whenever? I mean, what happened to Ashley in the tree?
It's more mystery.
There's there's a certain level to where you actually have to pay off a mystery. You can't have your entire thing be a mystery.
Yeah, keep shitting on J.J. Abrams. It pleases me. Go ahead.
And there's some sort of sentience with the witch because if unless Lane was completely off his rocker making up stuff when he was in the house, there's some sort of broker to deal with the witch. He's survived weeks, maybe months, with the whole weird time travel thing at this point. And with Rustin Parr, apparently he had connections with the witch. It's too many things that are question marks.
The only thing that I think I can think of right now that was confirmed about like all the mystery box surrounding the witch is the one night curse. You have to stay overnight.
Yeah, and then why is that even a rule either?
I don't know, but that's been so far the only rule that's consistent from this film to the previous project, the Blair Witch Project.
Do you two wish of not necessarily a whole movie, but like a scene depicting the past of the witch to give more explanation about it?
No, I don't need that.
Okay.
It sounds like it would make the witch more like of a sentimental. Is that the word I'm looking for? More of a character to feel bad for.
Okay, it just sounds like you keep asking for, like, looking for answers of reasoning, and I think the movie strengthens by not giving that to play more into the fear.
Yeah, there is, like I said, there is definitely a fear of the unknown as an aspect to roll with as a part of your as part of what you're doing in the film. I will, however, say that like I guess I'm going to go back to my original point. Is it's a very interesting line to walk because you have to walk the line of the mystery box while also still providing sufficient enough answers where you can, if not explain what's going on, you can infer explanation. If you catch my drift there, because as we have the film right now, there is a lot of mystery and unknown, but the problem is you can't really infer explanations because it's too open.
Could we, as an example, because I know we've all seen it, unfortunately we haven't, covered it on the podcast, but it's connect. I don't know what the two of you are saying reminds me of a movie we watched called The Ritual. About campers being lost in the woods. and not knowing exactly what's going on, but that movie does give explanation.
As far as I remember in the film, the payoff, they put a good amount into the design of the monster. So there was an element of payoff of actually seeing it like full bore. Whereas obviously the Blair Witch maintains a lot more an
Shrouded mystery.
anonymity. Yeah, anonymity. Remembering the ritual.
Because the ritual explains what the monster is and what it is doing,
What its motives are.
and the reason between like our main character's trauma to give response to it.
Yeah.
I don't want to give spoilers, but
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. It doesn't really go into the monster's origins though, right?
a little.
Yeah,
Goes
but
into
it's not.
what it is.
Yeah, but it doesn't tie into like the exact story of what it is.
No.
It just ties into more of the quote unquote mythology around it.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah,
At
that's a
least
good example.
interpreted by the characters in the movie.
Yeah, in that instance, we do get enough, I think, to infer explanations of the monster, whether or not it's confirmed or not, if that makes sense. So it's not open ended. There's still a lot of mystery to be had with it, but it's not open and ended enough that where I'm just constantly having to ask questions. That would probably be a better approach in terms of what I would view as a tighter writing, I guess, for a horror film.
Okay.
It is a good comparison. Just trying to, because I'm fine with there being mystery. It's just I'm trying to find the balance in this film because I don't think it's balanced properly. Because the powers of the witch, she has some sort of time manipulation ability. She has rules to where she doesn't attack first night, and she can only attack if you're not looking. She can use people's voices, but while she's moving, she doesn't. She acts more like an animal than something sentient. It's a lot of jumbled randomness that doesn't actually seem tied to anything. I think that's what I'm missing is the structure of these things. They're all just a bunch of random elements that you're like, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Why? Well, how's that all connected? I don't know. It needs. I'm missing the structure, I guess.
Yeah, you're missing. You're missing the foundation of which you can infer everything, if not explain everything.
But Crimson, no
Right.
one's lived to find the structure. Ooh.
Well, someone did. The what was it? I
Wasn't
keep
Rustin
forgetting his name.
Parr?
Rust.
Oh, it was
Rustin
Rustin Parr?
Parr. There was 8 kids he had and killed 7, which means one got away from him. And
Well, he can't
that's
kill
what
a
I
kid
think
if
that
no one's in the corner.
that's what I think the tunnel was. The guy, well, Rustin Parr wasn't the witch.
No. I'm agreeing with you. He's not the witch.
Mm-hmm. But the 8th kid didn't die.
Yeah. I guess that it doesn't explain what happened to this 8th kid. Or why Lane would know that a kid survived.
Well, the only
Or that
thing I could think of
8
is
went
that the kid made it
disappearing.
out.
Yeah, 8 disappeared and they only found the bodies of 7. That's what I think leans more, because there's nothing of like, oh, an 8th kid, told his story of that's how we know. It's like, that's never explained.
Well, I mean, they know enough about Rustin Parr to where a first-hand account would be likely. And they would probably just say he's dead.
Probably.
So saying, went in with 8 kids, 7 died. They're just like, 8 kids in, none made it out. They wouldn't specify 7 died. They didn't even acknowledge the missing one. They're just like, 8 went in, he killed 7. That was it.
Yeah. To me, that implied that they found 7 bodies.
I've been trying to think about how to explain, I guess, my stance a little bit more, because I know you're on the opposite end of Springsteen, where you think the open endedness and mystery kind of add to the fear factor.
Being that the knowledge of what these kids have, yeah.
Yeah. Um, I think as a POV film, as largely this film is, I'm perfectly fine with that mystery aspect being more at the forefront. Um, I think the objective issue comes in, or starts to come in, when even when even as the audience, as we are, our perspective, don't get the necessary foundation in order to explain. There has to be a through line to the curse, if that makes sense. There needs to be something that connects all these random things, where the one night rule before the curse passes on to you, or um
Like, what's the
the you
significance of the symbols? What's the significance of the pile of rocks? What's the indication for those? Like, are they
yeah
warnings? Are they setups? Are they the beginnings of a tracking? Are they like
The
yeah
time travel, the looping, are going in
y-
circles.
yeah
There's,
there
which
has
we
there
talked
has to
about
be
maybe being portals in the first one.
yeah
Uh,
there's an element that needs to link a lot of that together, and we can assume the witch has powers. So I won't actually question the time travel magic, even if I have issues. I won't question the time travel as much as I would question the reasons to why she can't kill you while you're unless you look at her, because that rule is directly connected to character survival, whereas the time travel is more indirect and it can just fuck with you. Um, so the curse aspect that would make this better written is somehow tying those concepts or ideas together. Even if it was a throwaway explanation as a theory work that they might have over the campfire. Um, Something that would where in which we could at least infer an explanation upon. We don't need to get a given a direct answer as to why all these curses are all these strange rules are in place. And I think that separates what I think would be an objectively better written horror from a poorer written horror. Because right now, as we stand, it's just a lot of convenient plot related rules. You know what I'm saying? It ends up falling into world building and plot related issues with regards to characters, because them figuring out not looking at the witch saves their lives for a few minutes longer. They ultimately still die, but if they were smarter, that would have kept them alive for all as we know.
yeah.
yeah. Because the
So
witch has restrictions, the waiting a night, the looking thing, that sounds like there's a curse on the witch, and it's not just the witch's actions, which feel like that would have to be pointed at a little bit, like when she was hung to die, the villagers or whatever hexed her, like the mummy, like he was the hum die. That's what it was. The hum die was a special mummification where if he was risen, he would wreak havoc on the world. But she just gets hung in the woods and tied down by rocks. Nothing. It's not a ritual to grant her a second life as a
That
monster or
that we know
anything.
of. Yeah.
I mean, you can make up whatever you want. It could be an alien because the lights that go through the window. Who knows?
I'm saving that for the end. Uh, but yeah, that only of what Lane has picked up in lore of what's being shared or what was documented or that he found. There's no point
yeah,
of this movie like the first movie where they're going around town documenting people or like interviewing and asking like what's the Blair Witch to you and everything. They just have Lane and Talia.
Mhm.
So there's no like Blair Witch expert or uh, religious nut or something around town that's been like following the story for the past, some on years, or like there's no like Belmont family of the Blair Witch to like go hunting.
yeah. The townsfolk are Lane and Talia.
Yeah,
I mean, you would think James would be quite knowledgeable, doing all the research he possibly could to find his sister.
which is well, actually, that will lead into funny enough a quick point. I actually quite like that he ends up continuing one of Lane's stories and finishing it off. It implies that he does know a lot about the witch.
Yeah.
Uh, it takes place when they're. It takes place, I think, before they uh, walk across the river.
Something I have a question about of to the two of you, and I don't know. Ryder, I take it you didn't find this and looking it up, and I didn't look it up. Is there an extended version of this film?
I didn't look it up, but I will look it up now.
Because
So
I
give me a second.
feel when we first watched this back in 2022, there was a missing scene that I thought was in this movie explaining that I thought it was Lane who shared it, that they're trapped by the witch in like a dome or a time sphere or something, and that's why they can't escape.
I
I think there
know.
was something similar in the project. It wasn't like a time dome, but
Like something that like explains like why they can't leave. And to me, like it would imply a couple scenes in this movie, like when the drone reaches a certain height, it goes out, or when they were crossing the river, which could be the circle line or whatever. It took a blood sacrifice from Ashley, which to me is like, oh, now something's in Ashley because we see it move, and I'm like, oh, that's a GPS the witch has on her. But I thought that was a scene or something covered about the circle, but I could be thinking of a different movie or something else
Um,
entirely.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Springs. I legitimately think we just had that discussion in theory crafting
Oh,
off the podcast
okay.
as friends. That might have just been something we threw around in conversation because we were trying to think of why things were acting a certain way. There is no extended version of the 2016 film.
All right. Never mind then. I guess it was just a mix of thoughts 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally fine. We are friends. Funny enough, off the podcast.
Yeah. But again, something like that would explain a little help.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. It's kind of implied that the river is like the border, like where the dome. If we were going to run with the theory, it does start because it was similar then to the original Blair Witch project.
Yeah, that's what Lane
Um,
says, like the point of trespassing. Like it's not
yeah,
owned by anyone but the state now
yeah.
of a certain point of
There's
the woods.
actually yeah, there's actually a small bit that I actually do quite like, even though it's turned for abuse later on in a horrible way. I do like the moment where Talia and Lane share like, "Are we sure we're going to cross this?" Because they haven't crossed the river before.
and
Um,
she said, "Are you sure you want to do this?"
yeah.
Which I didn't know, and I still don't know if that means crossing over or going through with pranking them. I didn't know,
Yeah.
or not pranking them, but
It's I take
scaring
it
them
as
out of it.
I took it more as them crossing over because they seem already like hardcore believers, so I don't understand why they wouldn't want to. Um, they believe in it enough to not cross the river. So for me, I took that as they never ventured beyond that point. So I took that as just a point of no return for the two of them.
Yes.
And they guided them there because strength in numbers. Is that what the reason was for them?
I think it was one of the reasons. At least that Lane
Man,
gave as an excuse.
man, do I have tons of shit to say about this character work in Act Two? All right. Crimson, why don't you take us to the point if
All
you've got
right.
any?
I'm admittedly running quite low. Lane goes for a pee in the haunted woods. Guess he feels safe because it's not night yet, or the end of day one.
Certainly out
But a
there
little
for a
peculiar nonetheless, I think, without much of a believer he is in this stuff.
yeah.
Something to point out.
Yeah, I have a lot of issues with Lane's character that will get more overturned in Act Two. but that was kind of the start one of the starting points for my problems with him as a character.
Okay. Could either one of you, if you got interpretation of it, something I didn't look up, explain the reasoning of showing the lightning tree? The tree that was struck by lightning. Like an example that it just happens.
My only guess is because we see a very similar looking tree again
During a lightning
when
storm.
during the lightning storm when they find the house. It
Complete
could,
theory crafting on my part.
yeah, it's
Could be that's where the witch was hung.
Oh. Okay.
oh, interesting. Yeah, that would be theory crafting.
Could it...
And to add on to the theory crafting, the house just appears there beside the tree.
Okay, that's what I
when
was going
they're
with. Were they two separate
so
trees or the exact same tree that they first see and then they see later on when they find the house?
I do not know, and I don't have enough information to confirm or deny it. That was that was one of my theories that I came up with because they took the time to show those both versions of the tree, whether it's the same one or not. It's a lightning cracked tree. So
Yeah. So the house teleports in.
definitely possible because they couldn't find it earlier.
Yeah,
Don't
with the
know the
search
limitations of
parties for the original film. No one could
I
find the
will.
house.
Yeah, I will stand by what I said. I think in our original podcast, we need to send witchers here and to deal with this.
Oh, that would be a movie. Another Blair Witch movie with actually like a witch hunting team.
That would be
That kind of ties into one of my fan project ideas for Star Wars. The idea of putting a bunch of Jedi Masters
Star Wars
on
Blair
a
Witch? No.
kind of, yes. They put a bunch of Jedi Masters on a planet and do a horror film.
And people have been talking
So
about
like
Star
they're
Wars
being
horror
hunted.
movie for a long time.
Yeah, yeah. And we're never, I don't think we're ever gonna get it. Sadly, there's a couple books out there though that were pretty fucking good. As
Isn't there
far as
like
Star
a...
Wars horror.
I don't know if it was in Ahsoka or something. Isn't there something somewhere of like zombinated stormtroopers?
Yeah, it's one of the worst pieces of media I've ever seen in my life. But that was not Ahsoka related. It actually started in the Clone Wars television show.
Ah.
Still a Dave Filoni project though, so take that how you will. All right, I will jump to bu- 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 the funny cracking sound of Ashley's bones every time we get a
Oh,
close up of her leg.
yeah, the sound effects.
Yeah. That to me I think was the worst usage of sound effects in the film, to be honest with you.
It didn't do anything. It's
It
not
just
like she
sounds like
couldn't
her
walk.
yeah, it sounds like her bones are breaking every single time.
Yeah.
It did. Absolutely.
Or when her
I agree.
bandage is getting changed and it sounds like a squirt gun going off.
Yep.
Yeah, agreed. The sound guys that did this film were very extreme. Everything was so loud. Everything was so exaggerated. And it's obviously to get the feeling of the film, but throwing it out.
Yeah.
Again, this is kind of one of my point of praise for the original. Their ability for them to be kind of reserved, I think, greatly benefits them. Or its reserved nature was greatly benefited the film.
Yes. I agree.
All right, Sprinks, do you have any points about
Yeah.
the first act? I know we've talked a lot,
No, I
but
still
they've
got a
been
couple
high
more.
concept stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. It actually helps. It's just like the more we talk, the more I just go down my page of notes. So, another instance was someone missing was a girl who drowned in the river right after the town changed its name. And I just see it as a pattern that anything that's revolving around people disappearing is that bodies aren't found. So like the witch's body wasn't found from the tree. This girl who drowned in the river, it's not neither confirmed or denied about the 7, the 8 kids gone and 7 found dead. I just am implied that because it never said like Rustin Parr was found and admitted it or anything. So I'm like, there had to be a knowledge that Seven died. So I thought that, but they never said it. It just seems like all these things, or Heather, Mike, and Josh, just everything goes missing. The only thing found is tape recordings.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm leaning towards the 7 dead kids because they wouldn't know otherwise. They would have just said they're missing like everybody else.
Yeah, 8 missing kids.
8, 7 killed. That's knowledge. That's not assumption. Okay.
Yeah, but we don't know
8
where that
went
information
in,
of 7 came
killed.
from.
Well, they're not just going to assume, oh, well, 8 went in, 7 died, 1 is a mystery, 1 is missing. There has to be some knowledge. Something had to have been uncovered. Someone had to have said something.
Oh yeah, I'm agreeing with you there. It's just never said who said. Again, the witch didn't come out of the forest and go, "Hey, by the way, 8, took 8, 7 died," and then walked back away. Or Rustin Parr wasn't captured and admitted, or the one surviving child didn't, get found or say it. Or there's nothing of that that's discussed. It's just said that 7 were dead. So I don't know where the information came from. I do like a little character moment of when Ashley first gets injured and they cross the river. Um, Lane's trying to get a good shot of it, and Peter like strikes him off after him laughing at the joke that wasn't a joke from Lane, and everyone's telling Peter like, "Hey, don't antagonize him. Try not to be mean to him." But in this instance, is like it's it's very like surface level, like first instinct of Peter just saying like back away without thinking of like try to get along with these people. And I thought that was just like a nice quick character somewhat bond of the two characters of like before the whole lash out thing in Act 2.
Yeah. There's also a part where he's apologizing too under the tree. When they get a distant shot, you can hear Peter apologizing to Lane.
Yes, that's true.
So you can even though that they are. Yeah, I know that you. I don't know if you were. I guess I'll ask now, Crimson. Are you being serious when the fact that they're bullying them the whole time, or?
And they kind of were. I didn't catch the apology thing, so it
Yeah,
does make
there is
Peter
an
better.
apology, and they do share some quieter moments together before I guess the Act Two problem.
It helps that they're not comfortable with strangers tagging along. Like the
Yeah,
group
it
wasn't
like
all
it.
just like, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, they definitely they're definitely distant, but you can see that they're at least trying to be respectful and cordial. That's why I really appreciate Peter's apology to Lane. And it's very brief, but I appreciate it all the same. It gives it a nice sense of camaraderie.
Yeah,
Um, I'll jump to the campfire. Again, more Peter and Lane not seeing quite eye to eye, but they're still talking their way through like they're differing beliefs and um, in a very calm manner and sharing various backstories about the witch. So classic campfire scene, whoopee. I do like those. I'm a sucker for them. And we get the idea that they're all bonding as a group, even with the two former strangers. Like he cracks a joke at that. Maybe I'm here. Maybe I'm here to lure you all to die. Um, which I
yes,
legitimately don't. I don't think Lane is being serious when he says that. I do think he means it as a joke,
I
at least at this
agree.
point.
What I saw as a mind game play was Peter saying he was part of the search parties as a kid and nothing got him back then. And Lane pipes in, "Well, you're here now." I saw that as Lane didn't have to say that, but it's like a trickery, like thought, like a psych out.
Kind of like in like maybe the witch plays a long game is the implication.
Yeah, but Lane didn't have to say that.
That's true. But at that point, Lane is still trying to. Because Lane is still trying to defend all of its being real a little bit.
Yeah, I just saw that as a slight
Yeah,
jab of Lane to Peter.
yeah. I see it the same. But Peter's been jabbing at him a fair
Yeah,
amount of the day, so them getting some light jabs at each other, I think, is good for the rapport that they're developing. At least, that's what I would say at this point in the film. um, you said you're thin, Crimson. Do you have anything left, or shall I move back to Springs?
I am out.
Oh,
Springs got
so
any
I
lingering
do.
ones?
At the timestamp 20 minutes 39 seconds, they put the drone back in the air. As the drone's going up, it hits something and shifts. I don't know what it is that caused it.
The implication could be just a tree branch, but or Ashley just being a very poor drone pilot.
I I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the like GoPro S camera attached to the drone shifting as it's going up, or if it wasn't a drone shot and it's like an actual camera going up and it judders or something.
And they actually own a drone, so I don't know why they wouldn't use the drone.
The only reason I don't think they would use the drone is because sound can be muffled, and that's fine in editing, out of world. But also, I don't know the clarity of quality of the drone shot would be, because it seemed pretty good getting all the trees like in focus and looked good, which could have just been like a crane camera cut. But
hmm Yeah, I will. I guess I'll also jump to, I guess, more of an overall compliment of why I really like this first half hour is that a lot of at least for me, a lot of the dialogue felt very natural. Um, like the backstories about the witch were kind of prompted from characters talking to each other in a very natural way, like Peter and Lisa joking together about Darknet Lane, and then later on when Lisa wants to get James's thoughts about the witch and like what he thinks the witch is, and then he's quietly contemplating, and then one of the locals chimes in. Talia just starts, spouting off like what the local legend is about the witch and who she's supposed to be. So
yeah,
I quite enjoyed. Uh, I really liked the first half hour of this movie. I was rooting for it, to be honest with you.
funny enough, not covered yet, but I kind of felt the same way about the ritual. At the timestamp of 26 minutes, when James wakes up in his tent, I didn't know if the sounds being heard outside were wolves, the wind, or the music, like the score of the movie. Because
Well, they
there is a
acknowledge the
score in the movie, and
sound.
it's very faint. They do acknowledge the sound. I thought that was the tree ripping or cracking.
Lisa jumps into his tent before the tree cracked, right?
Yes.
Because the tree crack doesn't happen until Talia and him are off looking for Lane.
Yes. I think
So
so.
yeah, there is definitely something going on that's making a bunch of noise. So Lisa gets scared enough to want to go into James' tent because she just doesn't want to be alone.
Yeah. It's just distant noise, but I couldn't tell what it was.
Yeah, it was a very very low rumbling kind of thing that I always seem that I attributed to like the I guess the monster of the woods, I suppose.
Okay, so you think
So
it's the witch, like just off in the distance with noise.
it could be. That would be my assumption because I don't have any reason to believe otherwise.
Okay. All right, just curious.
Yeah. I mean, the only other option for this right now is because we know Lane fucks with them in Act Two. That it was all, from his point of view, was all a lie. Which I'll get to the fucking storytelling choices of that later. But that could also be an explanation of what happens here, as well. Lane going around and making noise to scare everyone.
Okay. Speaking about scaring, uh, there was one jump scare that got me in this movie, which
And which one
was
was that?
26 minutes 18 seconds when Lisa goes to James's tent. Because I paused the movie to jot down my note about the 26 one
Oh,
I just
that's what
shared
happened. Yeah.
of what was that noise in the background. I press play and Lisa jump scares me, and it really got me.
I suppose I should ask now. Did any scares get you, Crimson?
No, no, none of them got me.
Yeah, not in this one. I usually whenever I'm watching horror, it's the first one that always gets me, or like the first jump scare that always gets me, or the really long delayed one. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of jump scares. As much as I find it amusing that Lisa jump scared you and Peter, or you and James, um, in universe, I think James would have seen her or heard her long before she
Oh
jumped
yeah,
into the tent.
I like the quote unquote meta line of I think it's James jump scares Lisa in like Act
Why does
Two.
everyone keep
Yeah, why does
doing
everyone
that?
keep doing that? And I'm like, that's kind of funny.
It's a little funny. That for me was very much for a movie moment for the audience, but I still appreciated it because at that point it's ridiculous how people are getting away with it.
Okay,
Very much a world does not exist off camera, that sort of thing.
I have a question, and I could believe reason as to why not, but do you do you think James shared any equipment with Talia and Lane?
At the start,
Equipment as in like giving tents and stuff, or like
Like
film
when
equipment.
they're like, oh, okay, they're joining us, like shared equipment or gave them anything?
I think they shared food. I have no reason to believe they did share food, like when they were all cooking over the campfire together. But they explicitly state that Talia and Lane were going to bring their own camping gear. That's part of the
Okay,
deal. That
their stuff
hey,
is
we're
theirs.
campers. We got our own stuff. Yeah,
Okay,
we have our own stuff. They explicitly say that.
okay, that helps. Because when Lane went off to use the restroom and Talia's like, I don't know where he is. I was questioning like, why didn't he take a comm or have a GPS tracker? And then I'm like, maybe it's because they're not his. Like Ashley, Peter, Lisa, and James all have theirs on them, and there's no spares or didn't give it. So
Yeah, they don't share any camera equipment as far as we can tell. We never get a POV shot of from Talia's point of view, like over the air.
no, okay,
Same with Lane. We do get Lane's camera. We do get their handheld camera when they're holding it.
yeah, okay. I was just curious on that. Um, I'll just go through my notes to see what else I got.
Okay.
Oh, okay. The last one I have, or I guess two, is one that the witch probably has something since they slept till 2. But being that later on they wake up at 7 and it's still dark, I didn't know if that meant like maybe they didn't go to bed when they thought they did. Maybe they went to bed at like possibly 4 in the morning, but it didn't feel like that because of time. I don't know if that was an effect.
Maybe. All I can do is shrug and say I could be time dilation, witching effect.
Okay. My other thing was being that it's explained that Lane faked the symbols. Did he fake all of them?
I don't
Because
know.
that's something I'm like, that would be clever if he did do a couple, but a couple were the actual witch, but he can't tell.
Yeah, but that's gonna again that's splitting into Act Two issues. But we should
Yeah,
start now because this act ends with
yeah,
them
that's the
waking
last
up
one I
to all
had
the
of
symbols.
the
Yeah,
2 o'clock thing.
yeah. Um, my thought towards that is yes, that would be clever, but Lane would notice.
That's
That's the thing.
my thoughts.
If it was a ton, like the second instance, I think so.
If you
No,
take
like
your time to make each and every one of these, you would know about how many you have visually.
Yeah, but
You
you
would be
wouldn't
like,
take
wow, this is more than I did.
if
you see that I think your excuse would work, Springs, if he was making them like an assembly line. Like you would lose track of the amount you're making just because it's your
yeah.
fucking sole job to do this. But
I'm just saying
he's
if he
kind of
made 7 and the witch put up 2, I don't know if anyone would catch it.
Lane would catch it would be my issue.
But
I'm not assuming anything.
yeah, I don't
So
Yeah.
know.
they don't show anything that the witch put anything up because he didn't acknowledge it. So I'm going to assume it was all his.
Because I could see
Yeah.
Talia. Talia, I'm sure, was in on it. So I could suspect that he thought Talia made one or a couple or helped him with it.
That would be that would be something, but again,
There's nothing of it.
they would, yeah, they would work together in the privacy of their tent. So again, it would still be the same thing. How many did you make? It's one of those things that would come up in natural conversation between privately for the two. I'm like, how many did you make? So they have their number that they're putting up.
Yeah. What I'm implying
It
is
would be
that they
too.
don't count it, though. They don't take them all down.
Yeah, that's too convenient though. Like the fact that they don't know how many that between the two of them made. That would be a character issue. If the fact that
Oh,
they don't notice that there's more than what
okay.
they have made, because they would count ones they've made together.
Okay, that's the hand-in-hand thing. Like, I think I would know that they knew how many they made. It's like, oh, I'm sure I made 6 last night kind of thing. But I don't know if they'd, like, walk around the campsite and count them all. I think they'd just be like, ooh, scary, and do the footage.
No, I think it's easy to kill around a count though. That's not an issue. Like that's something that they would do naturally. Like they would know which ones they hung up and where and how many, so they would notice an anomaly. That I think that would be what you're saying is very cool, but that's relying too much on characters being stupid, and they are very very dumb as we're going to get to. But that's
Okay,
on
again,
kind of
just a theory, because it's not played either
yeah
way.
yeah that would be a cool theory. I don't see evidence for it though. Is pretty much my thing. I think that would be cool. Like if we have them talk about like if they discuss that it's like we were going to play a prank but
Yeah.
so that would be cool though if that was true. There's no evidence for it with what we have. And Crimson, you've been quiet. Anything to add on this final scene before we move to act 2?
No.
Oh,
All right.
something I didn't pick up. Do you think it plays into the acting of the actors for Lane and Talia? That
I
everyone,
can see.
the other 4 think it's real, but that knowing now that the 2 of them put them up, do you think their acting is off or different?
No.
That's something I didn't piece or go back and check on. But
Um, the only hint that Lane and Talia are quote unquote acting is that pre-crossing the river scene, but there's a lot of other factors going into that.
okay,
That I thought were more prevalent as far as what they're going for. Like obviously Lane and if it's true, then it is that they made the witch figures. So Lane is acting when he's like, you should get that on camera.
okay,
Mhm.
but he's not hamming it up or
A little
trying to get
bit. He's
content.
hamming it up a little bit, but it's not like it's in character if that's what you're asking.
Okay, I was just thinking, knowing afterward. The thing is, I didn't go back and check, but to see if there's an actual difference in the acting being portrayed.
All right. I guess with that, we shall now move into Act 2.
I think you should begin. You've hinted like 5 times that.
Yeah, all right. I can start, I guess. If you're all willing to strap yourselves in for another fucking lengthy piece here.
All right.
Sure.
So I there's a point when they're after they leave the campsite where Lisa asks Lane about his tapes and then about his camera. Now, because I wasn't born yesterday, this is obviously set up for Lisa's. This is cueing us, the audience, into Lisa's suspicions, and it's going to kind of be what leads into the confrontation scene. And then that confrontation scene is the twist, where Lisa pulls out the kindling from his backpack. And this is where the film, I think, in both my original viewing and also here again for the podcast, prompted me to want to go get alcohol because this was a very terrible twist. So what does the story gain by having Lane and Talia fake the Blair Witch symbols? This for me was a colossal issue with character writing. They're locals and they clearly already believe in the legends, so why would believers want to fake anything at any point? Now, there was an argument already presented here in the podcast as to why they might want to, which is in the case they were being bullied. but I don't buy into that being a strong enough argument because they clearly had developed a rapport by the time this occurs. Um, Now, if this was framed from a let's scare them all so we can get them away from here tactic, it would be infinitely better. But the motive as it stands is weak because it completely contradicts what we have of their characters so far, and that they're locals, they already believe this stuff, they think it's real, so why would they go to the lengths to fake it? The motive is essentially lacking. Uh, the setup is lacking too, and the characters are damaged by it. And even if painting them as even painting these characters as stupid, they would be trending. Uh, this is going to be very hard to say. Stupid people trendingly believe are more likely to believe in ghost stories than I guess not stupid people, and that's me just generalizing. It sucks, but generalizations do apply occasionally. There's an angle too that Peter's again lack of belief in constant derivative comments might have been eating away with him. But if that were the case, then don't have Peter apologize. Don't show them developing this rapport if they wanted to play into the fact that this is a choice that they are making in order to get them to believe in something that they already believe in. We would need to have the drama escalate between Peter and Lane to a much higher degree if that was the angle that they wanted to play with the story. And if they were the ones that conducted this whole plan, both faking the tape, faking the story, all this to want to go out with people like the film claims, because that's what they said, safety in numbers, this would mean they aren't stupid enough to be undone by a flimsy looking piece of Kindle if they did develop that entire plan, because that Kindle would have been buried so deep in the backpack that Lisa could have just opened the first fucking pocket and find it. Now, onto the accusation itself. Um, it's a bit concentrating as the Kindle looks like the same as the bindings on the figures. It's a bit convenient. I also have to ask, when would they have had the time to make the kindling or make the figures if they're in quote unquote camera? Or did they make it before they left? Did they make it there while they're on the campsite? Because if they made it before they left, why on earth would they have the kindling? You know? It feeds into the another detriment as to what's going on here.
No, I'm sure they made it that night at the campsite.
Yeah, exactly. So that would be again, that feeds into a different kind of issue. um Now, why the kindling prompted Lisa's position, I have no idea. There was no journey for me as an audience member to understand or infer why, hey, you use film reels that look pretty cool and it's the ones like Heather used, to holy fucking shit. I need to search your bag because I think you're responsible for making those dolls. There was no connection there for the audience to follow. There's no connection there that's obvious for Lisa to follow. And there's just no journey between those two distinct there's those two distinct points as to where Lisa's suspicions are. She searches the bag unprompted, and the first thing she finds is the rope and kindling, which looks like they're from the Blair Witch symbols. Already, that's lucky. Uh, this relies again on the locals not being stupid, or being stupid enough to not get rid of the simple evidence that the forest could easily lose for them, and B, that would a kindling would be at the top of the bag, which it wouldn't be because, again, that relies on convenience. C, that Lisa would search the correct pocket immediately, and D, that Lisa connected the dots that were so unconnectable, and E, that they didn't just take one of the witch symbols with them as a keepsake. So what does this all facilitate? It facilitates the party is now being split up. Talia and Lane are forced to wander off on their own, and the group is now lost because they were lied to, and James feels like the tape too was a lie. This is what we call a collateral fuck up of world building and character to facilitate a plot, which is separating the group. And it's a fucking catastrophe.
Wow, I can tell you really leaned in on your mic on that last bit.
Yeah.
Catastrophe. All right, Sprix. What do you
Anyone
think of that
else?
whole statement?
I don't 100% agree with Ryder. I agree with the whole Lisa unpromptly checking Lane's bag and not having any real motive to that other than the conversation of his camera equipment, but that is just a coincidence sake. And then the kindling, and then Peter rough handling the bag and everything to get to a point. I think the whole scene is played to the homage of Mike losing the map of the first movie, because this movie does do some homages to the first movie, like filming the cars as they're walking backwards, or the close-up face shots of Lisa. I think this is just one of those ticks. But for Lane's character, I believe he's a content creator because he's made multiple videos of coverages, which Peter brings up that he's seen many videos, whether it's true or not. But there are things Lane has made on his channel, and I think Lane didn't want to come empty-handed if they woke up the next morning low on food resources and they just head back and there was nothing out of it and it was a waste of time. That to get something out of it, even if it was fake, I think that was the prompt onto him. Talia, I believe, is his girlfriend throughout this whole thing, was just along for the ride with him and agreed to it, which is why I think they did it that night. And he just found out and agreed to it, and they just didn't care about them really because Peter was pushy on Lane and bullying. Even though he apologized, it was still uncomfortable with strangers, and they didn't really bond that well of getting to know each other, just discussing their interest in the Blair Witch. So I think that was enough to push Lane a little over the edge of walking away, which was the thing that was done was immediately turned around and asked for help. Uh, but just him
Oh
and
yeah, that's dumbest too.
yeah, but him and Talia walking away, I think that fit Lane's character to me. The Lisa thing is what didn't really fit, and that was very movie plot tone to just get to where it needs to get to.
Yeah, I understand your point of view. It completely disregards that they're locals and believe in the Blair Witch, though.
I think you can still believe, but not have any proof of belief
Right, but if you're a believer, why would you fake proof?
to get content to create.
I don't see that's a strong enough motive here, because they, uh,
It's not a Scooby Doo thing where Lane goes, "Oh, I was the Blair Witch all the whole time," like removes a mask. Not like, I mean at the end
I
of the movie. I
am
mean
the
just like
Mandarin. Wait,
right
wrong
here.
movie.
Yeah, I don't mean like the footage he's found is like, "Oh, this is all faked footage," which it could be.
Yeah,
Because the Lisa
I
thing's not
think
fake footage; it's time travel thing. But I
I
also
don't
don't
know
know
if
how many videos he's made.
Yeah, I think that. All right, I like your theory. What I would need for that to work is I need to know how much of a content creator focus he is, if that makes sense. I can infer some level of it, but there's a line that hasn't been crossed yet to be kind of quote unquote obsession. Like if content creation was obsession, they would have shown that more as a character trait for me. I think leading up to that point.
Yeah, there would have been more of Lane saying like, "I need to get this shot. I need to get this angle," kind of thing. He only does it once with Ashley's foot.
Yeah. I think that if there was more of that, I would buy into your theory more. Um, Without that, I lean a lot more heavily on the belief aspect because that's what they film is relying heavily, or up to that point anyway.
Yeah.
And Crimson, you kind of threw it Sprinks out there. So, what are your
Mhm.
thoughts?
Well, I'm sure he knew I had some kind of rebuttal.
I,
Yeah.
I did. I knew you were not going to accept that 100%. Um, but kind of echo Ryder there. I like the theory. I don't think it's represented uh, to the extent to where it would need to be believed of his content creatorness. As we get the original uploaded video and a video of a pile of rocks, and those are our direct video knowledge. Um, and we have Peter saying he saw some videos. Some videos could be 2, 3. That could be 100. So not enough to definitively state that he's actually a diehard content creator to the point where he would risk something he definitely believes in. He believes in the Blair Witch stuff. Risk everyone dying to get content. I don't see it there. So that's my stance on it.
If I can ask, what's the risk of death for faking the symbols?
Crossing the boundary line to where people die.
Oh, okay, gotcha. The belief of crossing the river. Got it.
Yeah.
Because he's not like, I don't want to stay the night. I don't want to stay the night. He's not freaking out because he knows the rule. He thinks it's all going to be fine and dandy one day in, out and out.
Yeah.
It's
Safety in numbers is his excuse that he gives.
It's never shown, but it's interesting to know where Blaine found the symbol to be able to create the symbol. Like, what document had it so he copied it?
Presumably, he just watched the original Blair Witch. Because
I
remember,
was
that's
gonna say they could have found the symbols when they were searching originally
Oh,
for
that's a big.
for Heather.
Oh, that's a big thing to ask. Oh,
That's a
that.
big thing to
Well, that
ask.
just cracked something to me. Is the movie shown of Blair Witch in this universe real?
I would guess no, actually, but it would be funny if it were. And the reason I lean no,
Yeah, did they
is
find the
because
footage of Heather in this world? I'd
Her
say
fate would
no
be more
because
definitive
James
if it
would
was
have
shown.
that.
yeah, her
What
fate
is
would be
shown?
more.
Isn't it shown? There was shown like earlier in Act 1 footage reused from the first movie of like Josh in the or Mike in the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there again, this is gonna be really weird because we have to discuss our audience meta with the movie's meta. Uh, I would lean no, and the reason for that is because if Darknet's uploaded video would have far less significance if that film was a thing, because then already in James's mind, Heather's fate would be far more definitive.
I guess
Well,
so.
it
All it
would
could play
also
is that it's
contradict
new
its-
footage.
If the original came out, then it would contradict what was stated in this one of they did a search for the house and they never found the house. Heather died, presumably, dropping her camera in the basement of that house. So the camera would be with the house they never found. So
Well,
I'm pretty sure it never came to light.
no, they did. They found the footage. Well, this is connected to the last movie. They didn't find the footage in the house in '95.
Yeah, they say they specify finding the footage elsewhere.
They
not
found
the
it in
house.
a backpack that they didn't, not reason to believe, but like came to understand that it was Heather's bag of where the footage was found.
Don't remember that. For the sake of this movie, I would say no.
Yeah,
I do
if
think
it's
it would
true,
be
it causes
damaging.
a lot more problems.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would
And plus-
definitely. Well, that would just go into James being a little more crazy if he's just like everyone around him is like, "Oh, your sister's dead. You've seen all the footage. We've all seen all the footage," and he goes, "No, she's definitely alive." Play more to
Yeah.
that rather than there is nothing until this of what Blaine uploads. So yeah,
And the witch has been around, what they said, 1700s. So
yeah, it was
quite a bit. So that symbol could just be synonymous with her and would probably be in books or something. Not too worried about how he knows about the symbol.
Yeah, I suppose there are supposed ways to get around that to infer.
okay.
All right, that was a lengthy discussion. Why don't we jump somewhere else? Springs, why don't you do that? Take us on.
Are the symbols voodoo dolls?
They are now.
They weren't in the first one.
Does it have to have a certain amounts of elements to be turned into one? Because the fake
yeah,
ones have no power, I guess. Because they
the
break one of
The
those.
one that has hair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she specifies that one in particular has her hair. So I would assume that's what gives the voodoo doll the power or
Okay.
whatever to kill
Because
her.
I think she points out one beforehand and goes, "This one has hair," and then points to the one that had, or Talia points to the one that has her hair on it. So there's more than just one that has stuff connected.
Yeah, maybe. So the
Well,
witches, obviously, the witches picked her next target. I guess she was just. I imagine the witch somewhere off in the forest, being like, "Heh, I'm gonna kill you," and then watches them break the voodoo doll, and her just getting snapped like a toy. It's like, oh, I guess
I'm
good
just
on you, kids.
imagining the witch at night while everyone's sleeping, just giving haircuts.
Yeah. Granny can't let you go out like this.
Yeah. But okay.
um,
because the only thing, I mean, the first one there was the pile of rocks, right, that had teeth in them, but that wasn't
Yes.
tied to the symbols or anything.
But that was Josh already disappearing.
Yeah.
There's no point in
it's
this really where well, they kind of do it with Peter over the comms. And then when Peter's standing in the corner, but that's a question of what that was.
No idea. I think they went bonkers on this third act.
I agree. Um, I will say that my funny enough, you brought up the map homage, Springs. I actually didn't get the map homage until the GPS stopped working.
Okay, that's more direct to being lost. I took it as the
Yeah,
homage of distrust and anger
the
towards.
internecine strife, as
Yeah,
I will say as a Star Wars fan, the strife between the yeah
like points they had. I don't know if they
the
had to,
fingers were
but
pointing across each other.
yeah, tally marks of the story to go across that they had to like connect to, because this isn't a
Yeah,
remake, but a side cool, as Crimson says.
yeah.
So
So anyway, they got lost in the GPS.
yes,
I like they freak out a little bit, but James is confused as to why it's not working. And again, the land be changing.
Yeah, those pesky witches knowing what GPSs are
well, I just saw it
and drones.
as electrical interference
Yeah, that would be that's how I would refer to it as well.
because that
Electrical.
Then
changes.
why do the cameras work?
Well, they get more and more glitchy, but they
They
do
still
work.
work.
Yeah, they still work, and the flashlights still work, but they're going out,
They
which
still
I think is
work.
battery thing. There's
The
no
drone still works.
point. Yeah, I. It's very glitchy. Everything's glitchy. Nothing turns off or dies.
Presumably, the GPS would be just as glitchy, so it's not that it's not broken.
I
It's
think it's just
just
pointing in
glitchy.
multiple directions.
Yeah. Still convenient. I agree with you, Springs. Or Crimson. But I think I'm okay with the GPS being glitchy since everything else is being glitchy, not breaking necessarily. Though it is character dialogue that says the GPS is broken.
Well, yeah.
So I get why that would be the distinct takeaway as to why that would break and everything else be glitchy. But I will infer they
Well,
meant that it's just not working
yeah. I'm
properly.
thinking if someone pulled it up and it's pointing in all directions, one could still say it's broken. If you pull out a compass and it's just spinning or not pointing north, would you call it broken?
I just say it's not working.
Okay. I just go
I wouldn't
to
call it compass broken.
a scene in Stranger Things season 2 when Dustin pulls out his compass and he goes, they think they're heading north, but they're not. And it's not that it's broken, it's just a stronger magnetic pull is occurring. So I think the witch is like electrical magnetic pulse, not an EMP, but just like messing with the electronics.
The energy field emitted by the wind.
Yeah. That's why I brought
Um,
up the dome thing, because it was a certain point the drone went up until it started going haywire and then fell. And I'm like, was it hitting the boundary wall or something and went off? But that's not a thing.
let's see. I'll jump to, I think, one of the laziest attempts at jump scare in this film, which is when um, Ash kind of just snuck up on Lisa
Oh,
when she's wondering where Peter was. Uh, at
Oh,
this
yeah.
point, there's the night vision camera looking behind Lisa, and Lisa's seeing the footage. And then right next to her, boom, the person who every time takes a step breaks her ankle just sneaks up on you.
Yeah.
and also the tent Ashley's in is
Zipping in.
behind on Lisa's left, and Ashley appears on her right.
Yeah, it's
So she
extremely
snuck
lazy.
like around the camera to get to her.
Yep. Fucking teleported.
I agree. That was a teleportation.
This is where we're gonna get into a lot of the cheaper scares, I think.
That's a lot of jump scares.
Yeah. I guess one thing I do like, yeah, from Peter's perspective, once he sees how bad Ashley's foot is getting, he tries to comfort her with lying.
Yeah. Well, you could say a
It's
lot
not
of
as
people.
bad as it looks.
You could say a lot of people do comfort line in this movie. A lot of "You're okay. It's okay. We'll be fine."
Yeah,
Calm,
yeah,
calm.
they're just
We'll make it out,
coping.
I promise.
Yeah,
Well,
they're
sure.
coping,
Yeah.
right?
Is the thing in Ashley's foot alive?
I don't know what that thing is because it
uh,
doesn't come into play.
Well,
it's
no, but
confirmed to be a root,
a root.
but
But is it like an Evil Dead tree thing?
I would assume so. Certainly plaguing her fucking entire leg at a certain point.
Yeah, it's going up her calf when she pulls it out.
Yeah.
Which also
I
questions why it's coming out.
I didn't see those as two connected injuries. Or one connected injury. Hmm.
Oh, I saw it as the
Okay.
same because she cut her foot in the river, and then when Peter's fixing her foot, it moves. So I'm like, oh, something's in the foot. And then when she's pulling something out of her leg, I on viewing, I thought it was wiggling, like a parasite or something, but I guess that's just the root moving.
Yeah. Well, my I guess my interpretation of it is that she clearly can move trees around, obviously by knocking them down among other things. So maybe it does act like a mini parasite of some kind in her. And every time we hear the bones cracking, I just assume it's moving inside of her. Muscle spasming, I think, is what Peter said.
Yeah, could be. But I think it was trying to imply that's alive, whatever it is.
Alive as in a
Well,
plant or
actually,
a
writer,
cognizant.
is there a clarification that the practical effect used was a root, or that in world what it is a root?
It's confirmed that what it is in world is a root, but the effect for it was practical.
Okay. I don't know. Okay. I was just clarifying if the practical effect was the root being said.
No.
Okay.
And again, that is a fact I read off the internet, so take what I say with a grain of salt. But that is as far as I.
Let's see. Something I would have liked to have seen a little bit more on was when Teresa did get snapped. It's so quick and like
Talia.
it happens, and you can't even tell it happens until you're like, oh, she's laying on the ground,
Like with her legs
folded
underneath her
over.
face. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you have to first have to calm down the cameraman as they're
I
shaking
know.
wildly.
Yeah. It's a little weird.
Yeah, so I would have preferred to actually see that a bit more instead of just seeing the aftermath. But
Yeah.
it was shocking.
I think it was definitely a way to play to practical effects.
Yeah, by not showing it to keep
Yeah.
things more practical.
To actually have it, that would have been the CGI usage, I think. Or some kind of big contraption of like a half body hidden situation, which I kind of still think they played with, but the drop cut back helps the practical effect. What I thought was weird is she's still alive and they leave her.
Yeah, I'm just I did not like the shaky cam, to be honest with you. When in that scene, that's what bugged me the most about it.
The whole like, show me what happened, and they're just panicking.
Kinda, yeah. Yeah. Because the camera wouldn't be shaking. They were screaming, sure, but they weren't jumping up and down and shaking like that. So I kind of wish the camera was a bit steadier, and it would make more sense if in world it was steadier.
It would make more sense if it was the ear camera and not the handheld. Because the handheld is what's used, which makes it real shaky. I think we'd
Yeah.
have a clearer pic of what's happening if it was the ear camera before they like turn their heads or freak out.
And this is kind of one of those things. Is like the actual folding of Talia being left to the imagination does, I guess there is an element of horror to that I can appreciate. Being less is more.
Yeah. I think that's a good kickoff of something is freaking happening.
If it wasn't obvious before, people are dying now.
Yeah.
Well, she could have made it.
I guess we also kind of went over
Okay.
guess we kind of went over that Lane and Talia came back to the camp.
Yes, and that's where it's confirmed that we have time dilation issues.
Yeah. Because they said it's been like 4 or 5 days, but they couldn't tell because just they're stuck in constant darkness.
Yeah, every
Yeah,
morning is night.
they would assume 6 days. I think is what
Yeah.
they said. So
I
Yeah,
think
5 to 6 is what they
what
said.
helps play to it is Lane's facial hair growth.
Yeah,
yes,
they needed that.
they look far more wild and crazed. They obviously have lost all their gear. They're hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good shit. Good shit. Uh, though we can talk about how time travel breaks the story a little bit, but in this case, it's enough hands off that it's not too damaging.
Oh. Sorry, I just got a realization that I think I know about the bubble time thing I was talking about now. I think I'm confusing it with the movie Annihilation.
Well, definitely a different movie.
Yeah, but that's
Or
got
Stephen King's Dome.
that I haven't seen. But Annihilation has that time dome thing.
Writer, what'd you say?
Stephen King's Dome.
The show?
Yeah, the Dome. There's a movie
You
about
watched
it
that?
too.
Oh, I didn't know about the movie. Terrible show.
Oh
Wouldn't
yeah,
recommend.
terrible show. I agree. Just do not recommend. Caught you with surprise with that one, Crimson.
I did. I'm like that was not a popular show.
Yeah, I watch things, just not as much as you guys, sadly. So yeah, we get that confirmation. I think this is the act where Peter also goes off to get firewood and gets uh, a tree knocked onto him.
Yeah,
So why did he go a mile away for wood?
I
I
have
couldn't
no
tell you.
fucking clue.
I don't know why he went so far away. It doesn't really explain why. Well, kind of why Lane went to pee in private, but again, he went so far away. Though I've been on camping things with some people, not to name names, but they have gone like out of sight. Like they walked so far away.
It's fun to do to go off trail, but you have to know how to get back.
And then
But
there's
the
the element
problem
of a
is,
potential monster in the woods.
yeah. See, here's the thing, right? That's where the disbelief comes in. I know Peter's a skeptic. However, he's not stupid. He knows it would be smarter for him to stick closer to the the group. And also, it kind of bothers me that in all this camping gear, none of them just brought a hatchet to hack off like parts of trees to get firewood. But whatever.
At least it has that little knife.
That's true. That is something. It does come into play. But I do wish that uh I don't know. It's just very convenient that Peter walked off that far when they're already terrified of where they are, and uh, he was, I guess, sucked that badly at collecting firewood.
I mean,
I agree.
yeah, because he had a bundle, but he was pretty far out.
And they could have just collected from the trees around the campsite.
Yeah, because they imply that he was going far the first time, so like he wasn't near the campsite when he collected it the first time, and that was the first night where things were safer. So maybe that's something to consider, like in case we're out here for more than one day. But you don't have an excuse for this one when you're already suspicious of all the bullshit happening.
Yeah.
Then again, the only thing I could see in defense of this, and it's still really bad, is because of the fact that Lane faked the figures and he's the skeptic, he just doesn't believe in it anymore.
But then he
So he
saw the
wanted it
weird
off again.
foot thing.
Yeah. Relies a lot on that particular aspect. All right, Kramer, got another point?
If I can
Yeah.
interject, Peter went
Yeah.
to get wood before Polly and Lane show up.
Yes.
Okay.
Otherwise, he would have been angry with them and wanted
Yeah.
to chase them off again, probably.
Okay. They already have a fire going though. Before Peter gets back, or they suspect that they need to go find him.
They knew he's missing at that point, don't they?
Yeah, they
Yeah,
get
they know he's
skeptical
missing.
because he's not doing comm checks.
Yeah, no. I think they actually know he's physically
They
missing.
hear the tree
James,
fall.
yeah, and James runs off and then comes back, and then they reunite with Lane and yeah, because Lisa's watching the camp by herself and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
I'm just getting that they already had a fire going.
Yeah, maybe they had some
So-
leftover
But you
from
gotta
the
keep it
previous
going.
day. But
I know,
they
but
want to
like,
keep it going the whole night.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying they
So
found
they could
wood
have had some.
around where they are, yet Peter's so far gone.
Yeah,
Oh
maybe
yeah, we already put that.
yeah, maybe the plan was because they do want to keep the fire going all night, right? But maybe they just were using the leftovers from the previous day.
Okay. Because
As
I
to
thought
why they have the fire.
James also says a line like, "We'll just keep the fire going all night long as a symbol in case Peter finds it."
Oh,
He's like, "Oh,
maybe.
if he sees it, he'll come." That's why they kept it.
Could be.
Thought there was a line like that somewhere.
Yes, I thought he was gonna keep the fire going all night for Ashley.
For Ashley.
Yeah, I thought there was a line about him wanting to keep the fire going for Ashley because Ashley's her, and they want to keep the place warm.
Possibly. But she's in her tent trying to get rest, so. But yeah. Either or, still works.
Yeah, either or still works, and him being far off is still dumb. So
Yeah, no matter which way you cut it, I think it's stupid.
um,
He's running, screaming, and a tree lands on him. How unlucky. Very unfortunate for him.
and also the witch just has really good aim and time that shit.
Well,
Yeah,
I
I do
guess
like
so.
the
It's just
shadow.
more him shocked and standing there.
Well, I'd rather him be in shock and standing than going to the Prometheus school of running away from things, to be honest. But it's still a little annoying that he just doesn't sidestep it a little bit.
It's dark. He didn't see it.
Actually, that plays, yeah. That could be it. He hears it, but last moment turns to the direction of it and it's already falling.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about it, but the leg, the practical leg, the pus was disgusting, and I put thumbs up. That
Oh,
looked
agreed.
pretty darn good.
Good practical effect.
Yeah, that was nice. Poor Ashley was just the punching bag of this movie, and I feel like she wasn't even a character, really.
Yep.
It reminds me again to Ritual. Because they had an injured member kind of the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I think even they had more of a character than this because I think the ritual does take
They-
steps to try and
They do.
yeah. They're the friends in that have a better dynamic than the friends in this.
they have actual chemistry. Ooh. And time to actually flush out their friendship. Um,
The witch thought it would be very funny to see these ants scurry at the sight of a thrown tent. and was just
That was
laughing out in the woods, I imagine.
She definitely plays with her food though. I
oh yeah.
guess that's 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 a consistent thing from the first film with the whole delivery of fingers and stuff like that.
Well, trying to think, is there an instance where it's played that they're looking in her direction? Because it's said like she only kills you if you look at her. Are they not dying because they're not directly looking at her?
I mean, it's not even consistent with that in this film because we have
Lisa
Lisa
directed the
look at
scene.
it in the hallway and she
Lisa
didn't
looked at
That's
die.
true.
Lisa looked at it in the hallway. Lisa saw it again outside.
Yeah, she saw it outside before entering the house. Okay, you're right.
I guess I want to. I'm trying to remember if the drone bit is in this act.
Not her death, but it crashing.
Yeah, okay. I'm fine with it crashing. I was talking about Ashley's death. I think it is in this
That's
third act.
like
So
the start of the third act. Yeah.
yeah. I don't really have actually much to talk about this act, to be honest with you, outside of the main thing at the very beginning.
Okay.
The, okay.
Okay. I have another audio thing that I think is again a little issue. At 55 minutes and 2 seconds, when it's of Ashley being talked to, that she needs to like go get some rest from Lisa and James. Lisa saying Ashley's name gets more muffled, which to me implied that it was like Ashley's point of view, like of herself, kind of like like fainting a little, because her camera would pick up the audio just fine.
Oh, but the intention behind it is because she's fading away.
Yeah, like
Okay,
she's
I
getting
see what you mean.
weaker. That Lisa's voice is getting quieter, and I went,
Yeah,
"That's not a camera shot."
I have more issues with that than the drone stuff we talked about earlier. So I guess I would agree with that. Yeah, it's very movie thing.
Okay, but then that kind of plays that that's the only shot in the movie that's not from a camera.
Yeah.
I'm thinking. I think I'm in agreement.
If that's what it's conveying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember it well enough to say definitively, but that sounds accurate.
Okay.
Uh,
I do like that the movie. I had it my timestamps as like 56 minutes and 10 seconds, like when the tent gets pulled off. I'm like, there's still a good half hour in this movie, and it's kicking off. Like stuff is actually happening, opposed to like the first movie where it's a big build up.
Yeah.
I don't remember one for one
Non-stop half an hour.
when we watched it back in the day. So like there's some like bits that I don't fully remember, but I'm like, wow, there's still a lot to happen.
yeah, I agree. They the action quote unquote of this horror is ramped up for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I'll pick on. We kind of hinted at earlier, but the when Lisa's in the camp by herself and goes to check on Ashley, closes the tent, and then get jump scared again by James just appearing in the camp. Kind of funny. Still wouldn't happen because again, this ties into the whole if it's off camera, it's not in the world kind of thing issue that's usually very prevalent and stuff like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, no disagreement.
Do you
Uh,
like? I mean, I think the scene's fine. Do you like that Peter's voice is coming through the comms as a uh, I keep wanting to say intimidation. That's not the right word. Um, imitation from the witch, opposed to Project, where it's like Josh's voice being screaming out in the dark.
And I suppose, I mean, it shows a level of intelligence of the witch that she knows how to use a walkie-talkie,
Oh, I guess so. Yeah.
which is a little
Well,
weird,
I guess
actually.
another question is: do you think it's the witch or do you think it's Peter?
So I don't even know what happened to Peter, so it could be Peter.
Yeah, it could be Peter, but it'd be weird if that's the only thing he says when he's like in a very precarious situation.
Yeah, it'd be weird if being attacked by the witch and whatever
You just say
occurred, being
"Calm
dragged
check."
off, the first thing you do is comm check.
So I lean towards it not being Peter, but it would, it's not impossible. It's just
Is
I think I need a little
comm
bit more.
check something the witch would know? Did, was that something the witch overheard? That wasn't at in the forest, was it?
They
Ooh.
they crack a joke about it. I think they say "calm check" once in the forest. I don't know if that means she would know about it or enough to play the joke, unless again the witch is developing more powers potentially by just understanding that in
And knows
context enough to use it.
memory of its victims.
Yeah, there's I have a lot of questions about the witch, but that are never answered ever. So
I mean, that kind of goes with the very ending of what's being said to Lisa. That would have to give an understanding of meaning for the witch.
yeah,
I mean, I
but
could have overheard that during
yeah,
the
in
events.
that instance though, it's one of the last things he says to her before
Okay.
he gets taken.
I guess I can't
Yeah,
tell if
everything
it's
else the witch
mimicry
says is like
or
names or
actually imitation. Is it like
Yeah,
a bird that's just repeating, or
I mean, I don't know because we don't know anything about her. We don't know
yeah,
how
we know it's something they can
intelligent.
do, but
Yeah,
I
like I said
do.
earlier, there's some scenes where the witch is like an animal, but then there's some where it's intelligent, so I don't know anything.
I do think the use of it in the first in Project was scarier.
Yeah.
with
Yeah,
Josh screaming.
screaming in the dark, like using his
Yeah,
voice, I think is a better element than in this one of being over the radio. And this only happens once.
it would be interesting if he did comm check over the radio and then you hear the screams in the dark.
That would be something. Yeah. Or just more voices
That
in the
that
house.
that's how I would have filmed that particular scene.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
Especially if it came out behind them. Like it's not in front of them being screamed, it's behind. So it's like,
Yeah, but it's like a very distant scream.
yeah.
All right. Crimson, another point.
If I have one, we get the return of piles of rocks and a boatload of symbols of varying sizes hanging in this camp with the real depiction of the witch, not the fake one.
Yeah, she's still very very
Oh, you don't think it's Lane?
handcraft.
No, that giant one that Teresa bumps into and just freaks out. No, I don't think he hooked that up.
Who's Teresa?
Yeah, you said
Isn't that
Teresa
what her
about 3
name
times.
is?
It's Talia.
No. Oh, I wrote Teresa on one of my notes. Nothing going on with that. Oh yeah, whatever. Um, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. Things I forgot what my point was. It's there. They don't really explain in this one the significance of the rocks. The first one kind of does. So I guess it's not very user friendly to first time viewers of what the
No.
rocks even mean.
No. But then
Yeah.
technically a first time viewer coming into quote unquote the third movie.
Yeah, but it's kind of like branded as it's called Blair Witch.
It is.
It's not like Blair Witch: The Reckoning.
Yeah, it's a
It's
very
something that
much
would
a side
imply it's
it's
anything.
very much a side goal.
Yeah.
Because it's not
It's definitely I actually kind of view it more as an Easter eggy thing, at least in this film with regards to the predecessor, because I think the symbols imply enough with the fact, oh, you're fucking next. The witch is like, oh my god, they committed murder. I'm so proud. Let me kill them more.
yeah. Or Lane setting up the fake ones, the witch goes, "Oh, you saved me time."
I know. I was like, oh, hey, Sonny, how would you like to work for me?
Oh, look at that, they're already up.
I
Oh,
can make my
actually,
own
that
twine. You just bought it at the
ooh,
store.
Ryder, that's a good thing that you just said. Lane imitating the witch. Is that what latched the witch to give the voices to him?
Gives
What do
the
you mean?
voices to
Giving
her?
the voices?
Well, Lane, when he's like in the basement, it's all freaky. And it's like you gotta do what she says and everything. Like the story of Rustin Parr hearing the old lady's voices. To me, that implied like he was hearing them to do what to do.
He's hearing all the voices.
Do you think
Okay,
he was
maybe.
targeted out of the group because he was doing like her bidding earlier on?
Yeah,
Kind of
he's
thing?
like, maybe. Yeah, that might have been why she's like, oh, you're actually. I see potential in you. I can see that, but I don't know the sentience of the witch enough to know that
Okay.
if that's what she'd be.
I know
Into.
what you said was coming across as a joke, but it really just like connected of like, oh, a possibility.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's definitely a possibility. I won't deny that. It's definitely. I definitely didn't mean it as a joke, but its possibility remains nonetheless.
Okay.
This is for more the meta of the in universe perspective of the film. Is there any reason as to why they would include Peter taking a piss?
Peeing? Yeah, that was gonna be my last point.
No,
Okay.
unless it's like to document the last moments of his life.
They could have just cut the peeing part and have showed him
Him
walking.
collecting fireworks.
I
Yeah.
guess so, but I don't know if that's to characterize like he was still himself. Like I'm trying to think like if they showed it to his family, it's like he was still himself. He wasn't possessed or anything. He
Yeah,
was
we kept this in because we wanted to just see your son pee or
like the
something.
last moments of his life or something. I don't know.
So the editor in the
It
group had a piss
wasn't
fetish that
corrupted.
day. Fuck if I know. Yeah. Little weird, all the same.
Yeah, it's for the humor of it. In my notes, I wrote down, "Wow, an actual movie moment where they actually show a human like peeing." Like they always skip like people taking bathroom breaks or skipping meals and things. Like it's not important to the story. I'm like, oh, that's something.
Yeah, I appreciate, I guess, the levity it provides, but I still find it kind of. I don't see the reasoning universe more or less for it.
Yeah.
I understand pacing wise, of course, why it's there. Springs. Any
Oh,
more
that's me.
points?
I think I only have one left for this act, which is at 59 minutes and 47 seconds.
Which
When
is nice one.
oh, funny, got it.
But
Uh, when James and Lisa come back to the tent that's on the ground, the tent poles are laying on top of it, and I couldn't tell if that's to simplify, not simplify,
I know what you're
symbolize
saying.
another witch symbol.
I thought the same thing. I even paused on it, and I'm like, no, it's missing
Because
like the legs.
it is.
It's just a triangle. It's
But the points of the corners are overlapping just small
oh, it's a
amounts.
triangle. Maybe it's a symbol for the Deathly Hollows.
Well,
there you go.
but in my
No,
notes, I went,
I thought the same thing.
if it is, that's pretty campy.
Oh wow, nice one.
That one I'm a bit proud of. I'm like, that's
Boo.
funny.
Get off the
All right.
stage. No, it's fun. Good job. I appreciate it.
That's really on the edge where it can't. That's not cheesy. It's not corny. That's certainly campy.
Yeah. I guess that's it for Act 2. Final call. Anyone? Let's jump in right
I'm
now.
out.
And then I guess we are on for Act 3.
Sweet.
As
the one
this
I
movie
have
continues to degrade.
the least amount of notes for.
Funny enough, me too. So with that being said, Crimson, why don't you start us off?
This is where James as a character dies, literally and metaphorically, because he finds the house he's been looking for this whole trip. This was the whole point. His friends are dying, disappearing. There's a monster on the loose. He is with a close friend, Lisa. Might be something romantic. Don't know. Kind of hard to tell. But they're friends.
It's implied that they have a growing thing.
They sleep together.
Something. Yeah.
There is something there.
Something is growing with that relationship. And he's like, you know what? I'm just going to leave you out here to die with the monster while I go into this haunted house. And he does it. He ditches her to die.
He
does.
But he does see a somewhat
No
quote-unquote
sugarcoating.
proof of Heather.
See, my issue is it's out of character for her to even leave her behind because we saw how, like, virulently he went after Peter despite Lisa calling him to not go.
what I think is a little more out of character is Lisa not going with him. Lisa decided to be by herself.
I don't know if that's out of character. I mean, she knows this house is bad. This house is bad news. This is where Heather disappeared. This is where the bad
Yeah,
events are.
but as Ryder just pointed out, James has run off by himself before.
What does that have to do with her?
That she chose not to go with him, to stay outside.
Oh yeah, because she thinks she would have a higher chance of dying inside. I guess. She weighed the
She has
odds.
some sense of self-preservation.
I guess so. I would say to strengthen numbers, but
Oh, yeah, he wouldn't leave her. Even with Ash, they were going to go back for her when they found each other. When Lisa and James found each other, they're like, "We got to go after Ash." After all that craziness that just happened at the camp with not Teresa,
Talia.
Got it. I I wrote Teresa once in my notes, and it's been just stuck in my head. So I feel like he was butchered with that, and then kind of hinted at early in the podcast is he was 4 when his sister disappeared. Most people don't remember all that much at 4, let alone to a degree to where you're willing to just ditch your friend to die to hunt this
Well, yeah, he
sister
doesn't.
that you have like one memory of.
He sees a
Probably.
slight proof, but he doesn't know it's. He believes it to be her, but we don't see that it's her. It's just a light in the attic. Does she like say
I was
something? Is
trying
it
to.
her voice or?
There is a screen that they thought it was Ashley, and then he changed to thinking it was Heather. So he did think he heard her voice, uh, and
We
then
just
he went
confirmed
in.
he does hear voices that we as an audience do not hear in the footage that we're getting.
Yes. Does that kind of imply, because we do get picked up voices from the witch? Is it implying the witch has targeted voice, or maybe it's like
I would assume so because
is it like
if
Professor
you're,
X, like in your head only?
I would assume so because otherwise we would also be hearing the voices in Lane's head, right?
If it
And
was
the
from his
voices that
perspective.
oh, well, no, it might not be a part of the camera.
That's
I guess it
well.
would depend.
Well, then that kind of breaks it. Then, if we don't hear what James is hearing when he's in the corner, but we hear what Lisa hears of James behind her. So one doesn't get picked up in the camera, and the other one does.
Well, yeah, again,
The
it's fucky.
walkie-talkie. Who was it? Just James with the walkie-talkie, or were there
It
other
was
people
James
that
and
heard?
Lisa, and they both heard it. It came over the
They both
walkie.
heard it.
Yeah.
So that would mean that the voice thing isn't just like a psychic ability, unless the witch had both of them think the voice came through the walkie-talkie.
I guess the breaking of it is James hearing whatever he thinks Heather is saying.
Dude, this witch sucks. All right, I think the witch is the worst thing in this film. I'm breaking. There's nothing right about this witch. I hate this witch.
Oh,
Well,
go on.
okay.
No,
I'm like
I've had a whole spiel about how
I
it
could
makes no sense, and it's just a bunch of loose concepts that they're like witch.
I
This
could
has a witch.
tell you
Time
something I read from the
travel.
director.
Okay, okay.
The witch isn't in this movie, and what we see is a victim of the witch.
Well, they didn't portray that, so
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I'm just gonna shrug. I can't.
yeah,
I
that's
believe
death of
death of the
author right
author.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
death of author.
not
Sorry,
in the movie.
didn't do your job to portray that in the
I'm
films.
in agreement. I'm like I
They didn't
don't
convey
think
that at
so.
all.
Especially with writer's theory, which I think pushed me over the edge even more, of her elongated limbs or because of the hanging.
The rocks.
Yeah.
And that was for me was the implication as to why I connected those dots. And if they didn't want me to connect those dots, they should have given a different creature or victim.
It is
Yeah,
cool that you
so
see a monster though.
That is true. It's neat to see a monster. I was looking through my notes to try and find where I started talking about James Crimson. So I'll give you, I guess I'm in agreement he was character assassinated, but I guess this was my initial spiel about him. This is really pushing the bounds of extreme as James's quote unquote reasonable character as a reasonable character trait. Or I guess the pushing his character beyond the bounds of what would be considered reasonable within his character. Um, James, while himself having horrible experiences, hasn't himself been pushed to a breaking point yet for me to buy this because he's serving as a foundation for Lisa. One of my favorite quieter moments throughout the course of this film is when he is essentially hugging Lisa and he's calming her down.
Yeah, I like the detail of
After,
her breathing on his camera. That was cool.
yeah, showing that they're hugging and stuff like that. Kind of, I really
And
appreciate that scene because she clearly needed to be calmed down. He chose to help calm her down.
I also think it's slight homage to the Heather camera close up of the face.
Yeah. Um, and then, but anyway, continue on. His attachment to his sister hasn't really been explained as far as its importance to him, which is something we're missing it greatly as to understand. Like, for example, this is an extreme example. If James and Heather's parents used to beat James, and Heather protected him, that would explain the fanatic foundation that we have on display as to why James is so willing to go this far for Heather. Um, what I ultimately saying is that this motivation relies on an unbuilt relationship and how that could have been filled in with Lisa's narration at the beginning. Even if it would be difficult, mind you, if he was only 4 when all this went down. But it would mean something more if Lisa gave the foundation of their relationship within her narration or something more to feed off of for us as to why he so fanatically breaks his character to die and go in after Heather and leave Lisa all alone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that definitely could help.
And more to him just losing his mind is when in his head he hears her calling for him, right?
At which
Why?
point?
Well, I mean, he's hearing her call his name at a certain point.
Yeah.
And I was just like, why? I have an irrational mind. I know he's erratic at this point, but the last time Heather saw him, he was 4. Why would she be yelling your name? She probably doesn't even know you're her brother right now. You're just some guy running through the house yelling at Heather.
Well, you're right about it really relying on James being completely rational in this
Yeah.
instance.
Yeah, his
But,
sanity is snapped.
Somehow.
to
We
an
didn't
And then
see
he's-
this now.
extreme degree.
And then we see him going through the house, and it's just a toy. He's just being toyed with the whole time, and then he's locked in a room.
Yeah.
And
And then
then
that
we
flash, the lightning flash showing the girl in front of him in the bedroom. What the heck was that?
Was that Heather?
I don't
also
know.
this is one of those things where we're seeing quick things of like people running across the hall and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Eyes have a better vision than camera, so he probably would see that far more clearly than the camera did.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the
sorry.
witch physically, because those
No.
were normal human proportions.
I think these are all illusions.
Adding to the power of the darn witch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the thing
Again,
I pitched on earlier of Peter in the corner, I don't think that's Peter at all. That's an illusion.
considering he just vanishes, I would assume
Yeah.
not.
Agreed.
Springs, you got a point you'd like to jump to?
Yes, the drone in the tree. When
Yes.
Ashley checks it out, she opens the app and can see the drone connected to it, and she's trying to get it out of the tree with the app, and it's whirling up in the tree, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then she starts climbing the tree, and while she's climbing the tree, it's still whirling. I can't tell. To me, I'm like, okay, that's weird that it's still moving, but to me it was one of two instances. It's either in hover mode, so it's constantly trying to fight off its own weight to stay afloat or something, or that she didn't turn the app off in her phone in her pocket, so it's like bumping it a little, which is making it whirl.
Good to know it was an app because I had a question about that. I didn't know if it was an app or a specific like control device that they had for it.
I I think it's an app because there was like
Yeah.
8 different or 6 or 8 tabs or something on that device.
Okay. Then yeah, I had an issue with the fact that uh
She had the remote.
Lisa, yeah, that she had the remote because Lisa was the last one to have it, obviously. Um, but yeah, if it's an app, I don't have an issue with
Okay.
Okay.
When one of you brought it up earlier, I think it was you, Crimson, that why would the witch take her when she didn't look at her? I was curious if she died upon impact of falling out of the tree.
Well, I was hinting at whether or not the witch was involved with her death. I think she just fell.
something slapped her hand. That's pretty much the only thing we got.
Did
Something
something?
slapped her hand.
The branch snapped and she just fell to her death, and the witch just pulled her away.
I thought
Oh, is that what happened?
that's
Because
what
the witch
I
can't
thought
touch.
happened.
The witch
I
doesn't
heard a.
interact with
I don't
them.
know. It,
There was a
then you know,
noise. There was a
I'm gonna
monster
blame.
sound.
I'm gonna blame the audio then because I heard a like slapstick slap sound when as she was reaching out for the drone, and then the branch snapped.
Okay.
Could be
Um,
wrong. Could be wrong. Could have completely read the scene wrong. But yeah,
Well,
I know she got dragged off by the end. I just
yeah.
assumed someone went up there, quickly fucked with them, and then she
With
died
how
as well.
fast she was dragged off, the witch was right there, like around the tree.
Yep.
Because that was
yeah, so she
shot a
killed
bit in
herself.
real time. But yeah. I'm going with she died when she fell out of the tree. Otherwise, I
And
think
that's paying for her sins for killing Talia, I guess. I don't know.
I guess so.
I mean, this witch killed what, 2 people?
Let's see.
Because
Talia's doesn't count, does it?
No, Talia was killed by someone else.
Okay.
Well,
Uh,
Talia was killed by someone else, but let's be honest, the witch just gave them a loaded gun and they didn't know it was a gun.
That's true.
but still, not a direct kill by the witch.
It killed
Uh,
3
Ashley
people.
fell out of a tree, killed herself. Peter, we don't know what happened to Peter. He's a mystery.
I think it killed Peter.
And
Yeah, I think Peter, we can call that
He
the
was
tree could have
alive.
killed him.
He was alive under the tree.
He could have bled out under the tree. We don't know what happened to Peter.
I guess
We have
that's
no idea what
So
happened.
I guess
to
the
Peter.
fully
direct
true,
kill would
but
be James.
he screamed at something. Something was around and he turned the comm off, his radio off. And then he screamed in a cut. I took that as the witch got him, but I guess I don't know if the witch kept him
No
alive.
confirmation. Yeah. Um. Yeah, and then Lane killed by a human, not the witch. And yeah, so that just leaves
James and Lisa.
2. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
And you're telling me it wasn't even the witch.
well, from what I read,
I know.
that the witch wasn't shown. And I'm like, I don't know about that. Is that, yeah, instead of the witch, this is actually the 8th child that survived.
Yeah, so there you go. That would certainly be a victim. A victim that didn't get any closure with the story.
I guess it's strange. I guess for me, pacing wise, at the end of the film, cutting from being completely focused on James to then to suddenly just being out there with Lisa, shout calling names. Um, like like it makes sense, like I guess, but I guess the pacing was just a little off to me. This is not an objective issue, by the way. It's just a personal thing.
When he got locked in the room and then cuts to her outside.
Yeah, like she did nothing that entire time but shout names.
Yeah.
That's true. She did just stand there.
It also, I guess that kind of, well, I guess it plays into if it's the witch or not, but I think we're all in agreement that it is. That plays into the witch having powers away from where it is. Because all the things happening around James in the house, the witch is outside. because that's what Lisa sees in the trees to get her to go into the house.
I don't
Unless
know.
it went out of the house when it locked up James to get Lisa.
I have no foundation for the witch powers.
We don't. We don't have any foundation. For all we know, she can fucking teleport. If she has time dilation, she could have just stopped time for them and just went outside to look for Lisa to make sure she could find her first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand why Lisa, seeing the witch, and it's like, okay, go into the house for shelter, she would choose to go to the basement. I feel like that just indicates a dead end.
I feel like for me, that indicates she's never seen a horror movie before.
It's clearly a nod to the first film, but I agree that would be like the last place you would want to go.
Yeah, I also agree. It also might be she thought she didn't have a lot of time, so when she opened the door to go there, like that was her only way to go, even though she was calling for.
Maybe. But she finds Lane. But there's nothing indicating of Lane making noise for her to go there.
True.
Plus,
Or
we
I
don't know
guess to
if
scare
the
her away.
house changes shape, because she digs underground in a tunnel and then she appears back on the first floor after going underground, and then runs up the stairs to find
That's true. The tunnel
James.
she gets kicked into leads her back into the basement.
As the whole place doesn't really make sense on a map. Whatever that is. More mumbo jumbo. I don't even know what Lane was doing. He chucked her in the hole, and that was it. She gets out of the hole, he tries to kill her.
Is it a sacrificial hole? Because the witch was in there, of sense. Because there's two directions to go,
He knew
and she
about
chose
the
one of them.
exit. He knew about the exit.
Yeah. He also knew of the tunnels, right? That was something he brought up in the lore earlier.
He did say that, yeah. That there was a network of tunnels.
Yeah. But his beard growth, he's been around for at least like
Been there for
14 days or something. Yeah.
If it like that beard, yeah, it's probably like 2 months, maybe more.
Wonder what he's been eating.
I did write that down. What is he eating and drinking?
I'm sure the witch is hunting for him. She seems like a kind and caring
Or-
host, right?
Or maybe the witch has a new power and can just sustain him.
Could
He doesn't
be.
need to eat.
That's also true. That's also true.
Turns out the witch is God. So
Maybe.
Yeah.
could be.
I like how you went with God rather than the devil.
Well, the God created stuff. The devil didn't.
I feel like now we're on a fine line. So
Okay.
yeah, I'll take a step back.
I didn't say what God. You assigned it God.
That I didn't say that either.
You associated God with the devil. But
I did.
UFO light, as I put it in my notes.
Oh.
What do you guys think that was?
I was wondering what I was doing in the Pixar short Lifted, but
That's the one thing I looked up
Oh, okay.
because
I
I was like, what is this?
I think the house just moved locations.
Ooh, that's interesting. I couldn't find an
That's
answer.
just me theory crafting. I have no idea
Yeah.
why we have those lights.
I didn't find a factual answer. I found a bunch of theories.
All right.
It's
see
it's
a
it's
couple
the
of those
visualization
Yeah.
of the witch's arcane spells.
So one of them, Crimson, is UFO, and that the whatever is being shown is an alien.
Mhm.
Another one that I think I'm leaning towards the most is sun manipulation, and this is the witch forwarding the day back to night.
That was a blue light, though. That wasn't like a yellow sunlight.
It wasn't a yellow sunlight. It was a bright, like white light.
Yeah.
Another
So
one.
this is interesting, right? So okay, now hold on.
Okay, I
That
have
might
two
actually
more.
work. I know. Let me get this bit out. That one might actually work because when you fast forward like a day sky and you're looking at the ground from the perspective of a room, the light isn't necessarily yellow like the sun. It could be cloud covered, which would give it that sort of hue. Which would be cool as a concept to work with, and a very, very interesting visualization for it. But Again, I think they would have chosen a yellow light to make it more clear, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Another one was it's a search party light.
I think that's the most plausible so far.
They've been missing for a few months, so the witch just teases them. Here's the house. Bye.
Possibly. The last one I have here, which seemed to be the strongest in tune with the movie of people giving reasons why to this theory, is that it was Heather. And this is what causes James to snap into a reason of why you need to be in a corner.
I,
This is a
I don't
communication to
get it.
James to get him to save him.
Interesting. Would have been nice if I had any evidence for that in the film.
I'm leaning more towards Searchlight or Aliens.
This is what people are going with that because it shifts James' characters when he's like investigating it to then know what to do.
I think out of the 4 you listed, that's I think the worst one.
Oh.
I
think the search
I-
party is the worst one. It doesn't line up to
That's
me.
the best one.
I don't know why a bright spotlight would be coming in from that angle and nothing else.
Because the searchlight's pointed at that side of the house. We're talking about like a helicopter or something, yeah?
Maybe.
If we're going with
just
the
searchlight,
searchlight
but
theory,
yeah.
it would be like a helicopter.
But
So,
But
yeah.
the light wouldn't line up, I guess, with that. Unless it's, just cheesy to try to imitate that.
It doesn't line up.
Well, a spotlight would be coming straight downwards. It wouldn't be shooting
No,
straight at the house.
no. The directional spotlights that you can control where they look. Not like a tractor beam
I
coming
think
from the
the light,
bottom of a
if
helicopter.
it was the light like that, it would be more downward angled than straight on. Because the light's hitting the back wall of the room they're in the attic.
It all depends on how far the helicopter would be to shoot it in front of the helicopter. A very possible helicopter light source.
Out of these theories, I think the sun dilation or manipulation is the top for me, but I do like the UFO thought that this whole time it was an alien.
That one just doesn't make any sense. Doesn't.
Well,
Why?
it doesn't make sense visually. It makes sense why it would be there.
Does it? Why is it there?
What do you mean the time dilation? Why would it be there?
No, why would it show the day cycle zooming by like that? That never
Oh.
happens in the whole movie.
Well, if they
No,
sleep
what-
through it.
Yeah, she does it when they're asleep most of the time. Unless
So
it's
why is it in the movie?
Well,
no,
maybe
it
it's
doesn't
showing
have
that,
a.
maybe it's showing she can't pause time.
We already know that she has time dilation, so it wouldn't be that much of a stretch to show it in the movie if that's what we're going for in the theory.
Yeah, the things
They
of
would
time we
show it
see
overtly.
is
They would do that outside.
speeding
Yeah,
up.
I agree. That's what I'm saying. If it was a yellow light, I would believe it more because that would be more indicative. Oh, it's daytime going past, but they chose to do a blue light. So as much as I like the theory, I don't think that's what they're going for with it.
I guess out of these theories, which one's the top of your list, Ryder?
Oh, I hate all of them. So no.
Oh, okay. Out of
On your cheer list,
none of these
it was
lists,
May.
what did you think the light was?
I didn't have one. To be honest with you, the film gave me no foundation to even consider what it would be.
Do you think is this light thing an instance that, like, I'm looking for a reason behind it? Is it something where it just looked cool that they put in, like Crimson talked about before?
It's possible, but I don't even think it is cool. But I don't know their intent, so it could be they're like, wouldn't it be mysterious if this light just came out of nowhere? That'd be cool. And then they did it. Could be. I have no idea. Because I jokingly wrote UFO light in my notes, but I don't believe it to be.
It's a theory out there that people have. So
Yeah. I was given no foundation as to even conceive what the fuck this was supposed to be. because we really have no visualization ever for the witch's magic. We don't have any visualization, as you say, Crimson, for the day. It could be. I also jokingly wrote UFO because it's so absurd that it's there. It makes sense as to why they're constantly why the um what's it called? Why the fandom had to develop theories for it. Um. So
There might be an answer. I just didn't find one, or like a
yeah,
concrete answer.
yeah. I didn't. So yeah, to go back to the original question that you asked me, I didn't develop a theory about it because it was so absurd. It threw me out of the movie. Like my immersion was broken.
Oh, you
It's a
thought it was
very
a
cool.
random scene.
Yeah, it's a very cool visual. Um, but it broke my immersion because it has no place in the film aside of that visual. Because I was given no foundation to even conceive an idea of why it was there. Um, like if Lisa and James commented on the fact of that light, like more so like, hey, did you see anything? If they started talking about something, that could give an implication for me to build a foundation off of. But I wasn't gonna write for the writers at this point. They had lost a lot of they had a lot of loss of the respect that I had for them in the first half hour.
Let's see. I got a nitpick with the camera work, and it's just convenience. When she's in the tunnel, she chucks her camera in front of her, and it just happens to line up perfectly to face her when she throws it in there.
Every single time.
That's a
Yeah.
coincidence. Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
that's fake. That's for the movie. That is not
I
happening.
do. Yeah, one of the that being said, I actually do like the part where she's stuck and she's has a little bit of a breakdown before collecting herself. I did enjoy that scene.
That was human. Yeah.
Yeah, very very character rich human moment.
I'm not stuck. Calm, calm. Wiggle, wiggle.
Sounds like you're trying to run a dance party there, Springs Crimson.
Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Yeah.
Something I had a nitpick was, where the heck did the knife come from?
Good question. My best guess would be a survival kit for camping, but that would have been like
I guess
built up.
she had it the whole time, and it was just
No,
never used.
no Chekhov's knife. Yeah.
Yeah, like it would have been Chekhov's knife if it was set up.
It would have been
You know what?
cool if when they're helping Ashley and Lisa's filming and Jim goes, "Hey, the medical kit." It shows her from like her ear piece going over the medical kit, opening it, and there's the knife in there while she's rummaging through. That'd be something.
Yeah, or a survival kit. Like you're going camping, why wouldn't you have a knife in a camping kit? But it's just like we get nothing, so she just has the knife, fucking shank.
Well, they did set up the earpieces with GPS, so they did set
Yeah,
stuff up.
Oh,
you're
thank
right.
you.
You're right.
Got it. Thank you,
You're
Crimson.
no. Well, Cruz is making a point here is they possess the ability to set up stuff. They just don't possess the
And
ability
they
to pay off
failed.
stuff.
They didn't even set up something that should have been set up.
Yep.
They
No.
set up something that
This is
doesn't get paid off.
This is a paid off for no setup.
Exactly.
It's
It
the
comes out of
inverse.
nowhere.
Interesting.
That's funny.
It might just be, I don't know if either of you picked it up, but the rain outside clearly faked.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, that's
That
obvious.
is staged rain.
Did you catch any artificial lighting, Franks?
The lightning was very positioned with the lighting.
I'm pretty sure the UFO light was very
Well,
Well, yeah, okay. The UFO
that was
light.
practical use of lighting. That was really there. I meant like
that's
digital enhance lighting, artificial lighting.
I
I
see.
don't know if maybe the tunnel stuff because of the sharp angles of some of the turns.
Maybe, yeah.
The part I saw with artificial lighting, I'm like, oh, Spriggs is going to definitely talk about this. Guess he didn't pick up on this one. It was around 34-minute mark, roughly.
Oh, that's a waste back.
I know, I went back in my notes because I knew, I thought it was later, but I missed it. Around 34 minutes. clearly shot in the day, but they dimmed it to make it look like it's later in the day than it actually was when they filmed it. So that certainly artificially dimmed.
Like when they backtrack, like do the circle back to the camp
Like after the GPS thing,
breaking.
I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm looking at my notes where that kind of lines up. So around there.
Around there, 34 minutes
Oh,
or something.
I did not catch it. No. I guess the only thing I caught with that, which was believable to me, was that they said they slept till 2, and then the whole thing and it's over, but it's not as sunny as the day before. So it was looking like the sun was setting, but there was a good amount of time of sun setting. But I just found that as like just not necessarily real time, but a lot can happen within that hour.
Mhm.
So
I think it's convenient that James and Lisa end up in the same place.
Lisa doesn't save him from the attic room, right? He doesn't get locked in the room she gets to in the attic.
Yeah, she just gets to the attic and he's there.
Yeah, so he got out of his room somehow.
Yeah, which can work, but
It also
Mumbo
implies that he
jumbo.
just crossed the hallway.
mumbo jumbo. Yeah, there we go. Which
Because
mumbo jumbo? We'll just
yeah,
that's what we're gonna call it
because
from now on.
the attic hallway had a door on the left and right. James went in the left one, which was like a bedroom, and then Lisa goes to the one on the right, which is where James is when she finds him. So I guess James came out of the room and crossed the hallway. Maybe he was following Heather again, but
Probably, but who knows? We didn't have his POV on that one.
I'll read my alien lights note real quick. I said, "Weird alien lights start acting up outside." Neat. That was my notes.
neat.
The true antagonists, the aliens.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm running low here.
How you doing, Springs, on your notes as well?
Low as well. I did really find it as Lisa going up the stairs and being the exact like shots of the beginning of the movie with the whole time travel thing. I went, oh, this is Project Almanac.
Just more subtle, I guess, about it, or trying to be more subtle about it.
Yeah. This is Project Almanac without the realization of, hey, that's you.
For me, the ending, we have Lisa walking backwards, using her camera to look behind her, which fine works until the battery dies. Then she, after seeing James die, just looks to James and dies. But that's not my biggest issue with it. I would you guys rather use the camera to look behind or close your eyes and navigate your way through the house touching the walls?
Oh God. I'd use the camera.
Because all it takes is a glance at the witch. If the witch walked to your side, then you're toast.
I think in an instance like this, I'm toast. I'm in the
Well, yeah, we're all
attic.
toast.
I don't
See,
think I
that's the
would have
thing,
entered the
right?
house.
That's the thing, right? I'm pretty sure that rule's that rule's BS.
The looking rules BS.
Yeah, if they were consistent with it, I would go closed eyes uh, through the house to the best of my ability.
I guess a question to that then, Ryder, is when Lisa sees it in the camera behind her, how come it doesn't attack?
Oh, my joke is that it's inconsistent.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
They're pretending it's a consistent rule. That's my choice. If it was a consistent rule, I would lean towards closing my eyes going through the house, because that means she can't harm me at all, in theory, with my eyes closed.
So it's like
Worst
Bird
could happen.
Box.
You trip and fall down the stairs. You
Yeah,
step on a nail.
Well, I'm just thinking if the house is constantly shifting anything, I'll be continually stuck in the attic going downstairs.
yeah.
Well, we have no actual definitive answer that the house does actually change form.
Yeah. We're applying rules that the filmmaker should have applied. We don't know what the witch's rule set is.
I think if I was in the scenario and I closed my eyes and eventually opened the door to feel rain on myself and I'm outside, I'd open my eyes and see it and die. Like, I think no matter when I open it would be like one of those movie situations where it's like, oh, I can never open my eyes.
Until you cross the creek.
Yeah. Well, you would keep your eyes closed for as long as you can, for as many days as it takes, and hope you don't walk in a fucking circle, because your goal would just be to get out of the territory. Maybe that's why there was that one survivor, for all we fucking know.
Actually, maybe I could look at the ground.
And then the witch just pops its head under your legs.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, what are you looking at?
Real comedy moment.
Comedy. What are you looking at there, Shelley? Dead.
That would be pretty funny.
So, what do we think of Lisa hearing James's voice in the same tone that it was from moments ago?
Hearing
And
the
her
voice
turning
is
to look and die.
cool. Her turning and looking is dumb. She should have used the camera to find him.
She's crazy. She's in a psychotic state.
She's
all
using
alone.
the
Her friends
camera
are all
for her
dead.
eyes. She should have found him. It would have been cool if it showed, like, I'm trying to think. If it was the witch trying to look like James, that would have been real freaky. And I think that would have been cool. If it was just actually James
It would
I don't know
have
how to
shown
play with
too
that.
much, but what about this idea that she turns and sees James in the camera, but when she turns around, she screams, gets tackled. The camera still shows James, but we obviously see that it's not James when she's tackled in frame.
Well, we know that the witch somehow has the power to manipulate digital media, because the drone shows an endless forest with no roads. So the witch manipulated the drone footage, the live drone footage.
Or
So,
or she just that's what the footage looks like in the bubble.
If there's a
well,
bubble.
if we're going with the, yeah,
I don't know if the drone was high enough to depict roads. They just couldn't find any. It just looked like a big forest.
In my universe, Crimson, she magicked the skybox.
Not
I don't
literally
fucking
seeing asphalt sprinks, but seeing where trees have a gap to where a road would be. That's what they're looking for.
Yeah,
Rails, pathways, that sort of thing.
I think it would have helped if the camera did a 360, like the drone spun. The angle it was looking at that we saw before it crashed just didn't show any.
I'd imagine they're smart enough to point the drone in the direction that would be relevant to where they came from.
But at that point, they're lost. They're at the campsite, but being that Lane was walking them in the wrong direction, I don't think they fully know what direction it is.
Well, it's not necessarily that he took them in the wrong direction. They got something. But we described it in the first one as portaled. So I guess that's what happened here too. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they literally walked in a circle. I think they just
No, they
flipped
were
at some point.
As soon as they left with Lane and Talia, I think James said, "We're going to keep walking this way till we hit a fence."
Yeah.
Like
And
walking towards the fence
back
and
to the
campsite. Yeah.
campsite. So, don't think I have anything else.
Springs?
Neither do I.
All right. I think my final note is, I guess, my thoughts on Lisa looking at James like immediately because she's just so relieved to hear his voice. I was leaning towards that being somewhat character damaging at the very end.
Is it just like a relief of thought of like, oh, he's okay? This is the first time she's kind of hearing the voice for herself.
Yeah, there is that element that plays into it, so I'm kind of in the middle on it. And if you guys don't think it's character damaging, I'm fine with it because I think she's been pushed to a state of frenzy enough to be that way.
She heard Peter on the walkie-talkie.
She
right?
did, but they both heard it. I don't think it's character damaging because she doesn't know it's a voice.
even though it's a repeated line, like in the exact same tone, I
It
think she's
is,
in a
but
state of frenzy. I think she's in a state of frenzy enough that that wouldn't bother me. So
yeah, I think it plays off as a reinsurance to her that Peter's or not Peter, James is alive.
I don't know if she thought he was alive. I think it was more of a reflex than anything cognitive. Uh,
I would have
I wouldn't
agreed if
say it's
not for the
speculation.
single. I would have agreed if it wasn't a delayed reaction, or maybe
Do you think
they
it was just?
were a little.
I still think she would have used the camera to look rather than turning her
I
head.
mean, that's the rational thing,
Yeah.
but they're not very rational at this point. James or at least.
Yeah. They were the only stabilizing force for each other, and they lost that like literally seconds ago.
Oh yeah, James saw a flashlight in a window and
Alright.
went, "That's my sister from 20 years ago."
Well, um, I guess we can move on to ratings, ladies and gentlemen, if that's all we got.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. I'm gonna throw a curveball at both of you. I'm going first.
Whoa. Whoa.
Showed me.
I know, right? It's what I'm here for. All right. I will go subjective first. I think this film was a. I enjoyed the first half of it, or first half hour of it, and I've said that a lot, and that's kind of what defines, I think, the rest of the film for me. Is I think the first half of the film was quite enjoyable. I enjoyed the setup, the prep work. I enjoyed the world building. I enjoyed the character dynamics. What fleeting bits of it there were.
If I could
Um,
interject, what's your cutoff of half?
Half hour.
Okay, the first. Oh, okay. My confusion. First half
Yeah, the
hour of the
first.
movie, not the first half of
Yes.
the movie. Got it.
Yeah, first half hour. um, and so pretty much everything up until they wake up in the morning with symbols above the camp, uh, because that's when a lot of character problems start being introduced for me. Um, I w- so and because of that, it did keep my subjective score probably a little higher than I think it would normally be with how much I actually enjoyed the first half hour of this. The unfortunately there is another hour after it, where it degraded into cliches, um, unnecessary jump scares, and it just kind of forgot how to slow down and be reserved and be quiet, because horror films, um, it became more of a thriller horror, which is fine, but thriller horror is, for me, a lesser tier of enjoyment. Um, and there was a lot of rehashing, um, if like paying homage to the first film in concept and stuff like that. So there was a lot of rehashes for me, which is fine, but it just felt like it was rehashing with a lesser quality, if that makes sense. Um, so my subjective is at a 3.5. I don't think it's the worst film ever, but I'm not really going to go out of my way to watch it again. Um, Now to objective. Uh, Again, first half hour, this movie was riding at about a 6.5, and oh boy, did it dip off after that first half hour. Um, the witch has been discussed to death. We have no rules to base a foundation of any beliefs, powers, or constructs of how it behaves, why it behaves this way, why is it cursed, what are the rules behind the curse, why is this when, and then there's also a place where those rules aren't consistent with what's been set up in both in this film and with the previous original Blair Witch project. Um, which is to a degree very unfortunate. The plot, my biggest issue with the plot is the character relationships that are specifically tied to it that are damaged to push it forward. So examples for this would be Heather's relationship with James, which is this driving centerpiece as to why all this is happening. The group being separated, relying on what I think is character assassination. Don't like that. And um, a lot of conveniences and a lot of characters being unnecessarily dumb in order to push the plot forward, which I think was very, very damaging. So we are talking multiple character assassinations here, or character damages from my perspective, being some of the main characters. Peter's damaged for going out too far, because that's such a basic thing when you're in a haunted forest not to go out too far. Um, and if that was the case, they really needed to give a reason, which they didn't do. James got damaged, which we discussed. I talked about Lane and Talia, that not fitting in for me. I view that as character assassination for me. And that is most of the cast. I think I'm missing Ashley and the Witch and Lisa. Lisa, I think, is fairly consistent. She's not really a character because the only thing we hint at her is about ulterior motives and they don't play with it all. So otherwise, very basic. Ashley's just there to be a punching bag, as Crimson said. Not much to go for the character other than she's Peter's girlfriend, which is kind of how I referred to her in my notes most of the time until I heard her name being shouted into the woods. So objectively, I'm at a 2.5. There was a lot of worthwhile stuff in the opening that then got degraded as the film went along. By character damage bleeding into plot damage and world building not being consistent. It's a very intertwined web as to why it's gone so low, because it's the character damage pulled everything else down. And I guess with that, I will move over to Sprix. Why don't you go?
Alrighty. I double checked my LetterBoxd score after viewing the movie. I went to LetterBoxd to log it in, and I saw my score from when we saw it as a group earlier. And I think I judged it too harshly. I think the roughing around and shitting on it as a group cemented a feel of the sense of camaraderie, just like going over the film, to make the movie feel less than what I think it was on my own. So originally I had this subjectively, I had it as a 4. On this viewing, I have it as a 6. I don't think it's as good as the Blair Witch Project, but I think it's just a fine, suspenseful horror movie that has some flaws, but it does hit my niche of handheld, which I quite enjoy. This is not my least favorite handheld found footage film I've seen, but it's a good, okay movie to me in enjoyment. So I have it as a 6. Objectively, I think some actors are definitely better than others. I don't. I think Peter's not the greatest. I don't think Lane's the greatest. Ashley's okay. I think James is okay. I think Talia and Lisa are probably the best, so it all kind of like evens out. I think the script of plot for the story is fine to see where they started and where they're going. I think the use of jump scares is a bit too much for a horror movie, and that other elements could have been added, and they did. They have the visual horror of the witch creature, whatever you call it, itself. I like the use of the practical effects, which coexist. I guess that's not the right word I'm looking for, but like go hand in hand with the camera, especially with the point of view that Crimson brought up of the Talia being snapped and how it cut to get that practical effect approach. I think the story's fine. I think the writing definitely could be stronger of dialogue. It does fit kind of like some meddling kids in their 20s where some take it seriously and some don't, and their purpose mixed as a group doesn't have a lot of bonding, which I think the movie as a whole needed more of characters bonding rather than what Ryder brought up of being split up to pairs, kind of all these characters. Um, let's see. The cinematography is all handheld, except for a nitpick shot that's an issue for me. That could be a thing. Two audio issues that I think are a thing. But that doesn't. It's not a overall inconsistency throughout the whole film to line up. But I don't like those are very standout because they're different. Uh, I always forget something. I know lighting. I guess the lighting overall is very natural, and there's definitely more artificial, practical usage of that later at the third act of the movie, with the UFO and the lightning. But I have it. It's it's fine. It's okay, but it definitely has its flaws in it. It's not perfect. So I have it as 6.5.
All right. Actually, before I go further, I said 2.5, right? Objectively.
Yes.
Okay. I was bouncing between a 2.5 and a 3.5, and I think I'm on a 2.5 for now. I might be talked up, but we'll see. Crimson, wrap us up.
All right. Well, you guys did subjective first, I think, so I will do the same. Similar track as Sprinks, I did confer with my pre-existing letterbox rating that I gave 2 years ago, and I am sticking with it. I had it at a 4 out of 10. I still have it at a 4 out of 10. Next time I watch it, it will probably go to 3.5 because this covering it has made me like it less. But who knows? We'll go with 4 because that's what my experience was watching it this time around. Yeah, it's a
It's an event.
suspenseful horror-ish film, I guess. I didn't get scared. I've seen it before, and I don't really remember being scared the first time. So it never really hit me with that angle. The thing that made it somewhat digestible was I didn't really hate any of the characters. Peter was my least favorite. I kind of found him annoying, so it was nice that he kind of went away early. But overall, there wasn't anything too bad while watching. The Witch has been butchered for me now, so that's why I think it will get lowered on a future watch. Uh, I'll jump into my objective now. The Witch. The darn witch. It is fine to have some mystery. You don't have to know everything. But I think you need to have a foundation, a structure, a skeleton to work with. And the witch has none of that. We could assign anything to the witch and we'd be like, well, that could be the witch. Who knows? Uh, um, Time travel, teleportation, uh, kinesis, not kinesis.
Telekinesis.
What's the no the psycho one? The Xavier.
I thought that was telekinesis.
Telepath.
Telekinesis is move stuff.
Oh,
That's
Telepath. You're looking for telepath, right?
no, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
The witch can go in people's minds, manipulate them to hear voices individually. Can also project images, presumably, because we have James seeing Heather or some female figure walking around. It's just the powers are crazy. There's a potential AOE effect that if can interact with electronics to different degrees. We have the GPS that's just busted. We don't know what type of busted, but it's busted. The drone that fell but still operates. The cameras that somewhat fuzz, but to the extent where you can still perfectly watch all the footage. We have this weird integration of time travel to where the footage at the end of the film is in the beginning of the film, setting up the events for the film, which sets up some weird like paradox stuff that we didn't dive too much into, but I don't think the movie cares, so I don't care. I think the characters, James foremost, was absolutely butchered. He was the sane one. He was pretty rational through the film. He was the therapist to Lisa. But the moment he sees the house out the window, Lisa, just die in the woods for all I care. I'm going to run in there and save my sister that I'm pretty sure is dead, but I'm 4 years old right now. I've reverted to a child. And the rules regarding the witch, she seems like a free agent, but then she has rules of waiting a day and the looking thing, so that sounds like a curse, but we have nothing. World building is atrocious in this. I think it's abysmal. I don't really have a preference on shaky handheld stuff. I think in this it played off fine objectively. Other than I think the one instance that Sprinks brought up where her audio didn't line up with the camera, so that was kind of outside the scope of what's being depicted. Lots of rambling. I agree with a lot of points made, and I'm giving this an objective. It's bounced with 4.5. Objective 4.5. So between that and a 5, who knows?
Well, alrighty then. Shall I read us out, gentlemen?
Yarp.
Yeah. I have a piece of information, but you know what? I'll save it for the recap. If audience is curious, come to the recap.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for listening, audience, whether it be Spotify, Amazon, Castbox, Good Parts, iHeartRadio, Podcasts, and Samsung. And if you happen to be on our visual side of things, be it YouTube, Rumble, thank you for watching our little PNG Tuber slideshows. And feel free to like, comment, subscribe everywhere. Tell us how much you hate our opinions and how much you love them. As always, I have been a Geeky Writer.
I'm Crimson Orion.
And I'm Sprinks.
And we will catch you next time. Later, everybody.
Bye.
Toodaloo.